Good evening and welcome to Bare Your Souls with Dan Aguirre. Aldo is not here today. Danny, are you there?
I'm here, and I just want to extend best wishes to Aldo. He's obviously going through some personal stuff, but is also under the weather, to use a cliche. So I hope that he's well or going to be getting well fast.
Absolutely, Aldo. Best wishes too from Tooch. We got a great show today. We got a lot to talk about, man. There's so many things happening as the season starting soon. It's almost here, Dan. Look at that. We got props.
The season is almost here. It's hard to believe, that it's already August 23rd, 2022. That it seems like as you get older, the years go by so quickly. The months go by quick, unless it's winter, then that motherfucker goes by slow as shit. But the rest of the year goes by quickly. And here we are, man. We're going to the final preseason game this Saturday night.
Right.
I'm excited.
Against the Browns. You were there last year. That was not a good game for the Bears.
Oh, no. It's one of the worst games in the history of the franchise.
Justin Fields was running for his life.
Aldo and I were accused of being gay together, which, again, I didn't even refute. I just said, thank you, homophobe. If he wants to envision me blowing Aldo, then so be it.
And I have your favorite. I'm wearing the Dave Wanstead era polo.
Oh, I love that. Is it Nike? Yeah, it's from the 98 season. I love that.
Yep.
Maybe 97, because that's when we went to Nike, 97, 98, during the Wani days. Prior to that, we'd have been with Champion, I guess.
Yeah, I think so. Yep, Champion. Yeah. I found this in a resale shop. I think I paid $10 for it too. Thanks, Mo.
I saw Dave Wanstead recently. Maybe it's just because his hair gets colored when he's on TV, and I always thought, man, Wani ages so well. But he was on a podcast with Colin Cowherd, and was just at the house, and his beard was white and his hair was white, and I was like, oh my God, Wani looks 80. So maybe before, if he's on NBC Sports Chicago this year, he'll dye his hair and look the same. But
he's got a beard, huh?
Well, he had the mustache he's always had.
Yeah, he's had
and his hair, but it was solid fucking white, like he was going to do a role for Santa Claus or something.
Well, I know how it feels. Sometimes it's hard to let yourself, once you start the dyeing process, I could testify to this. It's like the shock of going, like you said, the shock of going completely gray or white. I'm not ready to go yet. I still think I got a few years left.
He looked bad, but to give you a transition, a good segue, one of the things that Wani was espousing was his advocacy of keeping Roquan Smith, because Colin Cowherd's whole point was to say linebackers are okay, but it's not 1985. You need playmakers. Trade this guy. And Wani was against that. So we've got to keep him. And obviously for one more year at least, we're going to keep him.
Right. And, you and I were talking before the show about how much material Roquan supplies us with this offseason. What were we talking about? We said Roquan Smith, the hold-in has ended. He's back at practice today, making an immediate impact in the run game. I think several Bears beat reporters tweeted out how he looked really, really good today. Thanks. I did, Laz. You like it? We got Jenny Ripley. Is that one of your friends, Danny?
I hope so. I'm trying.
Yeah. Hi, Jenny.
I'm trying to make Jenny to be my friend,
All right.
I'm going out with her this weekend, at least not to be presumptuous, but that's the plan as of right now.
Well, let me put in a good word for you. Dan Aguirre is one of the best guys I know, stand-up guy, Jenny. So just from the heart. All right, Roquan back on. He's got a big heart, Jenny. Roquan back on the field. We have let's see. You and I talked about Roquan's making $9.5 million. They couldn't come to terms with a contract, and you said, and this I hadn't heard, was that Roquan is okay with the franchise team.
Yeah, I forget. I think it was Jason Leisure, because he always kind of asks those commercials, those questions that sort of are almost abrasive. Yeah. But it was something to the effect of, okay, this is done now, but what about next year when you're probably going to get franchised? And most people like growl and they're unhappy at just the term franchise. But Roquan was like, yeah, franchise. I'd be getting paid a lot more money than now. I mean, okay. So that was like the oddest response. It was the most, you could tell Roquan doesn't have an agent, because if he had an agent and he said that, his agent would be fucking infuriated because you hurt your own, like, oh, you're okay with the franchise. Okay. Well, you're hurting your own position. But I mean, I just like the fact that Roquan was just keeping it real there. But, for all the shit that Cutler took about being, mercurial or, just, oh, he's moody. I mean, all those terms could be put on Roquan, don't you?
Absolutely. I always say Roquan doing Roquan things. That's my catchphrase. But Danny, I never did ask you if the Bears were to trade Roquan and they couldn't come to a contract deal with Roquan, they traded him this year. How would that make you feel?
It would have felt like a waste to me, because for all the cliches that you hear when your team is bad, the thing that they always say is, oh, you've got to build through the draft too. You got to build through the draft. And the Bears have had bad drafts. So, so this is the guy you took first in 2018. Well, at some point you have to start stacking your own players, right? So you got to get it done. I mean, in theory, he's earned it, just like he said, but I get where the Bears organizational approach is coming from. They're like, man, come on, we're switching to a 4-3. You've played 3-4. Just go prove. Show us what you got in this new defense, and we'll pay you. I think that's what it comes down to. We didn't draft you. The other regime did. Just show us what you've got, and I think they'll take care of him. If he plays the way Briggs played at the same position in the same defense, the Bears will sign him to a 4 or 5 year deal in the offseason.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, for me, I've said, I'm fine either way, because like I said, off-ball linebackers aren't hard to replace. I love Roquan. Roquan was my top tackler coming out of the draft in that one. Baralissimo and I sent Baralissimo, some highlight tape of Roquan, it just said this kid's the best tackler in the draft. But the thing with Roquan is that he's a smaller linebacker. He's got to fight through the muck, when he's not much of a stack and shed guy, but you got to love the hustle and the leadership. And that's
neither was Urlacher. So
yeah, neither was Urlacher,
and he's a Hall of Famer. So
yeah.
Speaking of George, does he hang out with us now, or is that 1 week or what?
I asked Baralissimo if he could join us tonight. He was unavailable as well, but he said, he will come on in the future if we'll give him a chance. And same with John Buffone. I invited John Buffone to come on and talk. He was also unavailable, but was very disappointed. He wanted to come on. Tonight we will be joined by Jordan Silvera and Sonny. They'll be joining us in a little bit, about 15 to 30 minutes. We got a lot to go over, of course, too, Danny.
Every time I call him Sonny, I think of Godfather.
Right.
It's like he's James Caan. James Caan's coming out. Actually, James Caan passed away this year.
James Caan, one of our losses this year.
Ray Liotta, all the fucking mafia dudes are dying this year. Paul Sorvino died as well.
Yep, Paul. You would have a hard time putting together a mafia movie this year, but right?
Yeah, exactly. Al's still there. De Niro's still there.
Right. Cliff Victoria will be on Bears Country Podcasting as well. So we'll have to get Cliff in here sometime. Let's see. We talked about Roquan making an impact in his first practice back. Danny, you and I talked before the show. We have not seen David Montgomery in the preseason at all. He's got some lingering injuries. He may not play Saturday. What do you think? How do you think that affects the running backs behind him? And what did you like? Anything you saw in the preseason from the other running backs?
Yeah, man. 30. I always forget his name. The guy we drafted in the 6th round, 31. What's his name?
Treston Ebner out of Baylor.
He hurt his ankle in Seattle. Has anyone seen what happened? The aftermath of that?
I have not. I don't know his status. Maybe the chat room knows.
He looked good. I mean, he looked so good, and especially the first game, to the point where Aldo and I were talking, and we were like, man, Khalil Herbert. If 31 can start to pick up the blitz, Herbert's in trouble for the backup spot.
Yeah, I know. I saw Herbert trying to he didn't look as good as he looked before, Herbert didn't have that great of a game. And you've got this Darrington Evans. He's 21 on
Yeah.
the show. The other guy is Demontre Tuggle, I think he's number 30, I want to say. And he did not look. I think he had a fumble in the Seahawks game around the goal line.
Let me remind you that Seattle is. It doesn't matter that the Bears won. Seattle's going to be okay. The Bears are going to suck. That's from ESPN's announcing team.
God, what were they watching the same game? Seattle.
God, did you hear that shit? I mean, it was just the whole game. Every time the Bears 24, Seattle nothing. Louis Riddick. Well, let me tell you guys, this is preseason, and this game doesn't mean anything. Seattle's going to be fine. I mean, the Bears are just going to beat the Bears.
Well, let me tell you something. I tweeted out after the game. I was like, boy, the Bears, this is a much improved team from the last year, especially in the realm of coaching. The Bears look so much more prepared. They had a 3-possession lead by halftime. I'll tell you, I tweeted out that I thought Seattle would be one of the worst teams in the NFL this year. I don't think I'm wrong about that.
If Drew Lock's not playing, because again, I've seen signs of Lock when he was in Denver where I thought he could be okay. I don't know if he's going to win you a Super Bowl, but I have no faith in Geno Smith. None. If he's their starter, they'll be 3-14. But I just can't. What game are they watching? And why is Dan Orlovsky like this fucking like guy that we're supposed to respect it? And like, this is the guy that ran out of bounds in the back of the end zone and was still trying to play. He didn't even know he was out of bounds with the Lions. And it was horrible at quarterback. And yet every day I seem to get a video from somebody saying, Dan Orlovsky says Justin Fields is going to take a big step back this year.
Yeah.
From who? That guy? The guy that never won a game in his fucking life in the league? That'd be like a virgin trying to tell me, you know what? Your form when you were hitting it doggy style, you look like you should have lifted your fucking cheek up a little bit and like, what do you know? You're just jacking off to internet porn. That's kind of why I feel like with Dan Orlovsky, he has no fucking clue what he's talking about. And it's asinine to me that he's telling us that Fields is going to suck. Like, dude, we saw you play.
Right.
Who are you to say to you he's going to suck?
Man, Seattle is not a good team. They don't have a lot of talent. Defense did not look good. I know it's the preseason and stuff, but yeah. So Geno Smith is in the spotlight there. He didn't look terrible. Made a couple nice throws,
terrible.
But yeah, he's not.
He played here at West Virginia. He is terrible.
When you have two quarterbacks, you have none, Danny. That's the thing. You've got Drew
you
Lock
never know.
Geno
I
Smith.
like our backup right now. I truly do. And then Foles was a good backup as well. But I like our backup.
This was my top pick of the day. Was the Bears beating the minus the points over the Seahawks? I knew that. Usually, this is a little tip Anthony always tells me is like when you're handicapping preseason games, what you do is you look at the backup quarterbacks on each team and you figure out that's how you pick a winner in preseason. It usually works out just fine. I look at the Bears backups. I see Trevor Siemian and Nathan Peterman. Both those
Peterman's
guys,
terrible.
I'm going to play a little while we have this on. Let me play one clip of Peterman before we. So here it comes.
Who's going to be that guy? Peterman on the run. Throwing's got a man. It's caught. Isaiah Coulter to the 10 where he's forced out and the marker comes in.
That may have been the first completion of his career. I saw this guy in Buffalo. I've seen him at the Raiders, and now I hope to God he's not even on the practice squad.
That was a nice throw, man. Rolling to his right.
Third string Seattle defense, though.
Right, and that's how you pick games.
Peterman is Mike Glennon. He is Mike Glennon. That guy. Look, I'm not trying to be a hypocrite here and be Dan Orlovsky. I'm just saying that Nathan Peterman, if that's who the Bears have to depend on to win a game, it's going to be a long season.
Well, I don't think they'll keep three quarterbacks. That would be a luxury. I think they'll go into it with Fields and Siemian. If anything happens to either one of those guys, Peterman's a phone call away. I don't think he has practice squad eligibility. If I had to guess, I would say no. But I
thought everyone's pretty much eligible now after COVID when they extended the.
It's possible. Yeah, it's possible Peterman goes on the practice squad. Stranger things have happened, but the
I like
guys
Simeon a lot,
behind
though.
the guys behind Simeon is a quality backup.
He played well in Denver as a 7th-round pick. He just had to follow Peyton Manning, and that was unfortunate. But if that defense from won the Super Bowl had Simeon there, they probably could have still won the Super Bowl.
So
even with Brock Osweiler.
With Peterman, that's could it have been coaching in the past? Maybe he just needed good coaches. I mean, it looks like I really like the Luke Getsy offense, man. I've always liked the Green Bay playbook. I just think
I hate that you have to say that, but
I know. I hate to have to say it, but I've always liked it. That they do a good job of rolling out the quarterbacks. They do a good job of route design.
They've always run slants, and they beat us to death with slants, and the Bears defense always looks like an impotent fucking cock, like unable to do anything to stand up and just make adjustments regardless of who the coach was. And now you saw in the first game, especially against KC, we're finally running slants. It's like that play's there. Like, let's do it. Especially with Nagy, he's going to run like 3-yard crossing routes. No sign of a slant. So I love seeing that, man, because it's always effective.
Yeah, they always would run that. They always ran that screen pass perfectly against us.
Oh yeah, it was always even going back to the mid to late 90s. It was always like one of the biggest out of shape fullbacks, like William Henderson. Like the guy had like 2 catches against other teams, but had 12 against the Bears, including 3 touchdowns.
Yes,
that guy always killed. William Henderson, Corey Schlesinger. And that fucker in Minnesota, Klein Saucer. All 3 of those fullbacks made their best games are against the Bears.
Yeah. It's that screen pass would always piss me off. The way they would set it up, and then they've got, it's a little bit of a delay, and then a bunch of blockers out in front of the running back. We'd always get caught.
Yeah, and one thing Green Bay's done for years, and they get away with it, and it's not just me crying. Anyone that's played them can see it. They always have an illegal pick with the wide receiver. They always get away with it. Always.
Yeah. That's a big part of the Getsy offense is the wide receivers blocking. We've got the right guys for that. Yeah, Tin Pan. Hall of Famers against us, that's for sure. Let's see. So David Montgomery, are you a little concerned about Montgomery getting back to Bears running back room?
I don't know what's wrong with him. Like I don't know if he's injured, if they're just like, look, bro, just be there September 11th. I'm sure he'll be okay if that's the situation. I just don't know what it is. The same thing with Riley Reed. Like since we signed him, has he played at all? Not in the preseason, but is he practicing? Like
he's had a hard time staying on the field. I believe he's got some nagging injuries. I want to say he's got a calf injury. Let's see. So a defensive line looked pretty good. I've got some plays, some cut ups. I was hoping Jordan Silvero would drop by. He's running late. Let's see. I want to talk a little bit about some of the preseason game 2 standout players. The one kid we signed recently was Trayvon Coley, who I thought played pretty well. Tavon Young is having a hard time staying on the field. Trayvon Coley had a sack. Then you've got this Jake Tongas guy who's an H back.
He looked good.
Tight end at Cal. Showed some nice hands. Let me go to one here. I've got. All right.
2nd down and goal from the 2. Simeon wants to throw for it. And able to connect. Touchdown, Chicago. It's Jake Tongas, the rookie out of Cal, on the receiving end.
So nice hands there and a good stretch at the end to get into the end zone. Kind of like this kid. I know he's going to beat out my guy, Chase Allen, who's played right down the road from me at Iowa State, who's they're in the battle for that. But boy,
that was a great effort.
That was a nice play, man. I'll tell you.
The initial angle looked like he was going to get tackled short.
Yeah.
And then he like the flip reverse angle, it doesn't look so much, but from behind, it looks like, oh, he has no shot at the touchdown. And for him to fall forward, it was a tremendous effort.
Right. Did we talk about Daz Newsome getting cut?
Not yet. I want to comment real quick on Leo's. right there. Kmet is underrated. I hope that I can put my fucking foot in my mouth and say, I've been running my mouth and I need to just Kmet can put his fucking dick in my throat and I'll take it. Cause I was saying that, all he does is fall down and he's a bust and stuff, but maybe, just maybe, I said this to Aldo off air. I was like, maybe Kmet is just like Fields in the sense that he had to get away from Nagy.
Yeah.
If you told me he had to have a coach to be good and it was Nagy's fault, okay, I'm on board.
Let me show you this play. This is a classic Green Bay play.
Another example of the poor offensive line play affecting the quarterback.
Lucas Patrick's got a handing through the starting center. Will not go tonight. Fields throwing and finds Kmet in a seam down to the 20. Big pickup and some emotion out of the Chicago tight end.
Fired up, man. I love it. Even in the preseason.
So would it surprise you didn't learn that last season, Kmet and Mooney combined for over 1,600 yards? That's a lot of potential there, Danny. What do you think?
Cole's thing last season, though, I don't know if we can find the statistics, but most of his stats always came up in quote-unquote like garbage time in the fourth quarter when the Bears were definitely going to lose and were down 10 plus, and it just felt like then suddenly he was getting involved. And that's not necessarily his fault. He's got to make the plays, but they never went to him in situations where it was, where it mattered is what I'm trying to say. But again, kudos to him. Statistically, it didn't look bad, his season, although I think he could be much better. I hope he's going to be much better. And I hope that I was wrong about Kmet the whole time. I'd be glad to be wrong. The whole time I've been cheering him on. I just thought he didn't have it.
Well, let me tell you, let me see. I had some material on Kmet. Kmet, that play was against the Seahawks starting defense. It wasn't against the scrubs.
Right.
I think, like I said, the two combined for over 1,600 yards last year in Nagy's offensive system. So
you can call it a system.
I think they could do a lot better under Getsy, which is what the people are saying in the chat room as well. Now, people shrugged off, like you said, they shrugged off his 2021 season as a failure, despite him having around, over 600 yards. I want to say he had close to 800 yards. He had 60 catches last year. I wonder what Ryan Pace will be thinking if the kid that he drafted, that was like his top pick, that year, that season, what he'll be thinking if Kmet, pops out this year. And a lot of people are saying around Hallis Hall that nobody's watch out for Kmet this season. He's having a great training camp, great preseason.
And he and Fields worked together in the off season, involuntarily on their own, along with Mooney as well. So you had some of that with Jay and, and Brandon Marshall, obviously, and Martellus, but you'd like to see that. It helps build chemistry. At least it should on paper.
Yeah. Mo Bierman makes a nice point here. Travis Kelce, year 3 was when he figured out, man, I remember too, I drafted Kelce in year 2 and I was like, this kid's going to pop in fantasy, and he didn't do that great that year. Had a few okay games, but man, I couldn't get him the year after that. Couldn't draft him. But, he really popped.
Kelsey's got a big fucking mouth. I hope Kmet doesn't match that. He's always arguing and just talking shit. It just seems like he gets a lot of taunting calls,
Well, I haven't been keeping up on Jesper Horsted, but Juan seems to think that he's playing good up in Las Vegas.
And he'll always be the trivia question: who caught Justin Fields' first touchdown?
Yeah, exactly. He'll always be the trivia question. First touchdown catch.
And a friend of the bar room. He was on here.
Was he? Okay.
Yeah, Horsted made an. I don't think I was on that one either, but I was listening.
Okay.
That may have been when Phil and Shane were still here.
Gotcha. Any other thoughts from the Seahawks Bears game? I've got more tape. I was hoping Justin Jordan would get here, but Sonny's going to drop by too.
I thought the offense looked good, as you stated. I mean, with running, it seemed to have a purpose. The plays seemed to set up other plays. It felt like an adult was calling the plays and not just a kid playing Madden. I like it. The offensive line still, it needs some polishing. if it's so interesting though, and this isn't like a bombshell thought like everyone thinks this, I believe. It's the consensus to go from, he's going to be traded or cut in Jenkins, and now going to be your starting right guard.
Right.
That's a story unto its own. Like, what really happened and how did this all happen? I wish someone would write a piece on this.
Right. And that's in our notes too. Right guard, Bears second round pick, Trayvon Jenkins, reported by NFL Network insiders Ian Rappaport and Mike Garofalo before to be on the trade block, has moved to right guard. Man, you and I have been talking for a long time. There was a big hole at right guard.
Right.
What do you think? What do you think about Trayvon? How did he do?
I'm not the guy that breaks down the film. I want to watch the game as a fan. I don't want to watch the game like I'm at work. And I'm not disparaging anyone that does want to extrapolate things out and let's talk about this play and isolate this play. I'm watching the game as a fan. And from what I could tell, it seemed that he did well. I didn't notice anything awful, and his disposition conjures up memories of Kyle Long in terms of like what the things he said. You could tell that he's a tough guy, and he's a guy that would whip your ass in a bar. He just kind of reminds you of Kyle Long in that regard, and Kyle was our right guard, you know?
Well, I was worried about Trayvon, the right guard position. We got someone here who can let us know what he thinks about.
I was gonna say, just cover up my mouth too.
I know.
I'm like fucking with you, but
hold on.
I'm gonna spoil it. People, I'm literally getting home from work. Cliff,
I've got Sonny waiting in the green room too. I'm gonna bring him in.
Yeah, and just let me give a couple words out, Chad. I appreciate it. I don't care if Dan covers me. Chad, I appreciate you hanging out. And forgive me, I'm literally
there's so many.
As Tooch knows, I at 6:48 here in California. I'm literally working late today. Jump from work, drive home, trying to wolf down food, do the whole damn thing. So we'll get it done.
Gotta bring in another guy. It's like, all right.
Yeah, and Chad, don't harass me for eating. I'm sorry.
What did you think about Trayvon Jenkins before I bring Sonny in?
Sure.
What did you think about Trayvon Jenkins, right guard?
Excellent. I mean, I shouldn't say I hate to be Homer. Oh, he's excellent. He's great. I don't think he's Quentin Nelson, but here, I'll do this. I don't think he's Quentin Nelson, but at the end of the day, I tend to think that he does a great job with displacement, moving people off the ball, and then also does a fantastic job. Let me give you a little nugget that I loved. I watched him get beat at his recovery on the rep was what really surprised me. I love to see it. He had one where it was a blitz. I believe it was an overhang player, an overhang defender that blitzed. Borum didn't even help inside. Jenkins got beat across his face and still was able to find a way to get the grip strength to hang in, carry the defender past Fields. In a way, actually ended up turning the whole defender around. Fields was able to escape. It's a lost rep, let's be clear. But my whole thing is you're not always going to win. Nothing is ever quite perfect. So if you're not going to always have it perfect, do me a favor. Don't get my guy killed. Don't get Justin Fields killed. And I think let me put it this way. One final thing so we can get Sonny in here. Dan can talk. You can talk, Tooch. The thing that I think is desperately missing from the Bears offensive line that Trayvon Jenkins did such a fantastic job with, and I'm excited because this is something that Lucas Patrick is going to bring. It's why I like Zach Thomas. You need glass eaters. You need junkyard dogs. You need guys that take joy and pride in pounding people's faces into the dirt, hitting them to their helmets pop off, sitting there telling them, woohoo, you like that? I lit you up like it's Christmas, you son of a gun. So that is the type of energy that you need. It's contagious on an offensive line. Lucas Patrick has that junkyard dog in him. He's been out. Cody Whitehair is not that guy. Sam Mustipher is not that guy. Larry Borum, everybody was like, let's put Larry Borum at guard. He does not get the displacement needed. Trayvon Jenkins comes in. He's taking people's names and pushing them into the ground. How do you now imagine what happens when you get an ace block? Lucas Patrick and Trayvon Jenkins on a little ace block up to the linebacker in a zone scheme? Boy, oh boy, you're going to have these dudes just tossing people out of the club. You love to see it. So that's what excites me about Trayvon Jenkins.
Yes,
I wouldn't mind seeing Jenkins at right guard and Riley at right tackle because I'm no expert on breaking down the tape or something, but Borum is not really – it's just the preseason, but Borum is the one that's like worrying me the most when he's out there.
Yeah. Is it because we haven't heard his name? Is that good or bad? I mean,
this is the thing to me. I got to disagree with Dan a little bit, not in a bad way. Riley Reef is a guy that is solid. That's why you saw him brought in. I've always maintained the stance that I think they brought him in to raise the floor level, raise the basement up.
Sure.
And then ask the guys like Jenkins or Borum, can you rise above so that we don't have to play this floor level that is Reef? I think that Borum, I mean, this is it's a low standard. Believe me, I wish we had Philadelphia's offensive line or the Raiders in 2016, Cowboys 2015. But the low standard is, can you keep my quarterback clean? Can you make sure he's not getting decapitated the way Smith Jr. from Buffalo did it last year on the misprotection? So if you're doing that, that's enough for me to say, let's get the kids the experience. And so I like Borum in that respect, Dan, just because he's going to need the experience. I went over a deep film dive against Bosa, Watt, Carlos Dunlap, a few of the others last year. Thought he acquitted himself okay, but yes, I agree. It's not been perfect this preseason.
All right. See, I'm a big Borum fan. I wanted to talk a little bit about, let's talk a little bit about some of the standout guys, and then I'm going to bring in Sonny. Some of the preseason game 2 standout guys. One of the guys that popped for me was Trayvon Coley. I think he had a sack, was in the backfield a few times. There was a late camp signing. Danny, what'd you think of Trayvon Coley?
Same as you. It was impressive, but it's just one of those things like, let's see it again. You know, like the first preseason game, we had 52 with all the statistical, you know, like jumping off the page. That's gonna like be like we talked last week, like Mike Hass or Tanner Gentry, like this, the darling of the preseason. I try not to get too excited about names of people I didn't know until like they stack it a little bit. Because I don't want to. Because I did think Tanner Gentry had something, and it turned out that I was a fucking fool.
No, you're not a fool, Dan.
Well, so I mean, I want to see more. He's got a game against Cleveland to earn a roster spot.
Right. Well, there's always camp darlings. I think I said a month ago that Daz Newsome wouldn't make the team.
I agreed with you on that.
Cut today. Jordan, sad about Daz Newsome or expected?
A little. But I would tell you it's somewhat expected. You're kind of hitting over a little bit. I give the fans a little fun backstory. Literally named Jordan. I heard Dan was talking earlier about Sonny reminding him of the Mafia. I was named Jordan because at the end of the mother, crazy enough, named me after Jordan for Michael Jordan. So inherently, I take a fandom towards UNC. I love the Tar Heels in North Carolina. The reason I bring that up, that's where Daz Newsome went to play.
Sure.
You consider all the talent that came out of that class. Sam Howell was my QB2 of this class, looking okay. He was actually just devoid of a lot of the talent outside of Josh Downs this year. Prior to that, who he had, Javonte Williams, Michael Carter at running back, Josh Azudu draft pick this year, receivers, De'Ami Brown, the one that went higher than Daz Newsome. The reason I bring this up for context is Daz Newsome was a guy that was always second fiddle, if not third or fourth. That's why he was a 6th-round pick. So not ultra explosive, had a decent level of returner skills, but now you're talking about you're going against the co-SEC Special Teams Player of the Year with Velus Jones. Where does this guy fit? He's not a ball winner, isn't super athletic, doesn't have a killer RAS score, is getting beat out in the return game. Where does he fit? And that's the problem.
He doesn't really have great hands either, I got to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, so like, as much as it bothers me because you want to see draft picks hit, I can't say I'm surprised he hasn't had a strong preseason.
So here, real quick, this wasn't his fault though, but this is one of the special teams were up and down. We were talking about this before you jumped on. Here's one little play.
Really, this next week going into the regular season that can't be to wear their roster is that can't be a thing that they have to deal with weekly.
That's muffed. Daz Newsome couldn't handle it, and Seattle says they have it. On the 10th punt of the night by Michael Dixon.
Wow. So a couple things in there. One, wasn't his fault because his man came across his face. You know, that's got to be cleaned up. But the thing is, like, the defense really played outstanding pretty much through the game. 10 punts for the Seahawks. Man, you got to like that. Really like the defense was in the backfield a lot. Let me bring in Sonny when I get some of these swarming defense.
Can I give you one small comment before you bring Sonny in?
All right.
Speaking of punts, our guy that we drafted looks so much better than Patrick O'Donnell. No, it's only been 2 preseason games, and he's wearing the same jersey, number 16. But O'Donnell was always like okay and would have really fucking a badly timed, horrible punt. It's like, all right, we got to get at least at least 40, 45 here, and then it would be 22, out of bounds, a shank. So I'm excited about again, it's just a punter, but I like the new guy. I like him too. To me, he seems like it takes longer to punt the ball than O'Donnell, and O'Donnell took a little bit too long for my taste. Jordan, don't you think? Maybe I know Greg Gabriel's talked about this before about him. It should be a 2-step. He's more like a 2.5, 3-step guy. But I think I don't want to jinx it, but I think we might see a block punt or two this season. What do you think?
Well, so this is the funny part, and I'm going to try to give just an unbiased, hey, I'll wait till there's a fault before I want to blame Trenton Gill. He was not. I know that some people had him really high. He was not one of my top punters. I actually like Ryan Stonehouse right after. Look, everybody likes punt God. I get it. But to me, it was a Jordan Stout or Ryan Stonehouse or Riza after that. Stonehouse went undrafted, is in Tennessee now, booming him out as well. Literally had a muffed punt where he ran for a first down in his preseason game. So that's a whole different story. Where it comes with Gill, though, is Greg Gabriel's talked about it. You've seen it. It is a little bit of a longer stroke to get the ball going. And look, it hasn't been blocked yet, so I want to give him the benefit of the doubt. There's no reason to complain if it hasn't been ultimately blocked. Little sidebar with Justin Fields. I don't love his motion. I know he's working on it. Who am I to say that the motion sucks if he's been able to make it to the NFL without a huge stripped ball issue? As much as he likes to do the little crank, it doesn't typically get stripped out. I know he had fumble issues, but it wasn't so much from that. It was from being rocked in the pocket. So in that same respect, I have to if I'm going to give Justin Fields a benefit of the doubt of saying, well, he's not being strip sacked, I have to do the same for Trenton Gill to be fair.
Yeah, and hey, Dan's guy Paul Edinger made it pretty far with a quirky.
Love Paul Edinger. Edinger never missed a game-winning field goal for the Bears or Vikings.
Yeah, the corkscrew. I love it. All right, let's bring in our guy Sonny. We'll see what he thought about the game.
What's up, guys? Can you hear me good?
We
Sonny,
got
how are you?
Coming in loud and clear.
Awesome.
What'd you think of the initial quick thoughts about Bears Seahawks? We came out to a 3-possession lead by halftime.
Yeah, man, that was I could not believe. Actually, it was pretty funny watching the commentators just trying to get something going for the Seahawks, but my God, they look bad. And wasn't it before that game that it came out that day the Bears are the worst team of football? And it was man, that's just so funny to see the Seahawks have their starting offensive. I think DK Metcalf was there. I don't know if Lockett was there, but most of their starters were there.
Right. Metcalf didn't play.
I think he played maybe one series.
Did he play one series? Okay.
They were on the field for a few plays, but didn't do anything.
It didn't do anything. And that, that was their first offensive, what do you want to call it? First offense. And, mind you, we didn't have Roquan Smith. I can't, it just felt like we were dominating them, and it was my God, they just looked bad, as Jay said right now in the comment.
Yep, I tweeted out after the game or during the game at some point that I thought Seattle would probably be one of the worst teams in the NFL. I don't think I'm wrong about that, Jordan.
I disagree a bit.
Once Jordan follows me on Twitter, he'll be able to get my tweets regularly. But since he doesn't follow me yet.
God damn it, Tooch. Let me go do it now.
Just kidding.
No, I'm not. You become the squeaky wheel. You get the oil, damn it. So let's do it.
All right, I want to show you I want to play one of Dan's guys making a play. Here we go.
Elite scheme, which Nathaniel Hackett brings over, and high-end perimeter talent. He's had high-end perimeter talent when he's been in Seattle. I just don't think he's had both at the same time.
Here's Symbol Webster down the sideline. And finally run down by Kobe Bryant with a C. So,
look, I've told you since last season, I thought that guy was a bum, but maybe he's better at kick return. He's a horrible punt returner. He's an atrocious punt returner. I hope he's nowhere near the field, but maybe if he's a kick returner, that's better for him. I want to make one quick point. This over the past few years, it felt like now last season we went to Seattle and won, and I don't mean that game, but in 2014, I honestly thought, the Bears have a good shot this year. And they go the third preseason games, the game we go, and that's the one you play all the starters, and it's going to be a big game. And they beat us by fucking 40. And then don't forget, a couple years later, we have to start Jimmy Clausen up there and we lose by like 40. It's just, it feels like, let me just say, it's only a preseason game, but it felt good giving those motherfuckers the beating on the other side.
Yeah, it did. I know you weren't a fan of Sim Walker, and I don't think he's going to make the team, but that was a nice punt return. Like I said, that the special teams were up and down, man. You had the fumble, some other things going on, but I this year, I think special teams already is looking like it'll be a little bit more improved than last season. Jordan, Simba Webster make the team?
I hope not. Nothing against the guy. I don't want anybody to be cut. I at some point, like, it's cool to have all these returners, but you can only have one returner on kickoff, one on punt return, and sure, let's have a backup. But at that point, Dante Pettis can return kicks and punts. Herbert can do both. I mean, we're sitting here looking at Valus. Like, what are we doing here? You have plenty of guys that can do it. So I don't know if he should make the roster. It seems like a valuable spot for
Webster. To me, when he was returning punts, was kind of like Ted Ginn. He's looking for the fair catch, or for fuck's sake, please don't hit me.
Yeah, well, Dan, you're spot on there. And this is where, I mean, he was a return specialist coming to the Bears last year.
Yep.
It was literally, he got picked up by Ryan Pace from the Rams waiver wire. He was one of the final cuts from the Rams last year, and then hung around consistently on practice squad. He was a return specialist with the Rams too. He's not. This is why I say, how can you give a roster spot to a 53, one of 53, when sure, he's good at special teams, but he's not physical. He's not a gunner. He's not a good receiver. So then you're asking to give a guy one of 53 for one specific role when you have others that can do that and more. It just doesn't add up.
And he's not even that fast. To me, he reminds me of that guy, Clifton Dunk. I'll never forget that preseason game against the New York Giants. He catches the interception, and it's like, yes! And then he starts running, and it's like, yeah, good acceleration. But then top speed, it's like, you going to get going or what? And it's like, I felt the same thing with this guy. When he started that stride, you'd think, like, that's it. He's going down the field. But he's just like, So... yeah, he's just not that fast for me, at least on the screen. I don't know. I could be wrong, but that's just how I see it.
The defense looks much improved. We've got a lot of defensive film. Here's the Coley sack.
3rd and 15. Gino's going to go down. Good coverage in the secondary. Garoppolo was out.
Probably a covered sack, but the thing is that he was on the ground, got up, hustled, made the play. But why was he on the ground in the first place? I don't know. Do you think he makes the team, Coley, Jordan? We've got a pretty good defensive line. It's deep this year.
I'm waiting for my man Nomad to sit in here and grieve me, because he likes to give me shit that when Coley got picked up, I said he's a bottom of the roster guy, a depth guy, trying to make a team. He was on the Tennessee Titans last year, didn't really get much play. He's that bottom level player. And sure, he's had an impressive preseason, but really, where's his spot? Because they've got Mike Pennell, and Pennell to me is another one tech behind Tonga. Okay, well, Coley's more of the 3 tech. So Justin Jones, and then the thought is Mario Edwards would be the 3 tech behind.
And you've got Angelo Blackson too, who looked pretty good also.
So this is the problem? Where does a guy like Coley fit when somebody earlier said they've got to cut 27 players next week?
Yep. Next Wednesday, or no, next Tuesday is cut down day. Let's
do one I always call Angelo Blackson, Angelo Blackcock.
Only you, Dan. Only you.
Too.
Let's see. Here's another guy. I don't know if this guy will make the team, Jordan, Sonny, but this is a guy who we have a lot of pass rushers. Let's just say we're doing okay there.
And that was a nice job on the part of the Bears defense doing so.
3rd down and 8. Neeson trying to get out of there and could not escape. Sam Kamara and Charles Snowden getting there. 3rd sack of the night.
I thought Snowden was still in Russia. Well, that's Edward Snowden. I forgot.
I always think of the same thing too whenever his name is mentioned. Kamara, Snowden. Is there a spot on the team for either of these guys, Sonny? You think you like either of these guys?
I'm not sure if they're gonna maybe practice squad.
Is Sam Kamara Alvin Kamara's brother?
No.
No?
I don't
Okay,
think
so no relation.
No, I don't think so. He came from Stony Brook. Kamara was at Alabama and then Tennessee. I don't think they're related.
There's you have look, we've got some depth at pass rusher. You're talking Robert Quinn, Travis Gibson, Al-Qadim Muhammad, and I forget the rookie's name that looks promising.
Dominic Robinson.
Dominic Robinson. Either of these guys, is there a room for a fifth pass rusher?
The guy that, this is, you want to talk about homers, guys that I like. I'm a big Charles Snowden fan. I was so hyped to get him in the 3-4 scheme because I thought he has that very similar Leonard Floyd. Just kind of, it's the jack linebacker, plays Will in the 3-4 scheme. There's some concern about, look, can you put his hand in the ground? He's always been a little bit of a slider frame. I had high hopes for him this preseason. I think the funny part is he's always been the Robin to the Batman on a couple sacks in the Chiefs game and the Seattle game. Whereas Kamara has been the guy to really flash and show and be the Batman in those situations, as you saw there. Kamara was there first. Snowden's just right behind it. But the reality, and this is where PJ was saying, Snowden's not looked good, though. And that's where I'm at. I wish that Snowden was the guy. But even I have to be fair. Fair game to Kamara. Kamara looks like if you're going to keep one of those guys, it's Kamara over Snowden.
All right. I want to play a little bit here of, man, I've got 3 clips, and this is what I was hoping to see from Eberflus this season. I shall play a few of these, Danny.
Rep, so these are paramount for him to come out and just put out good tape for the rest of the league.
2nd and 15, nothing doing on this drive. Good job, Chicago defense.
Give him chip help, see if he can get a chunk in the middle of the field.
Trying to set it up for the tight end, Colby Parkinson. To the 30, gain of 7. Bears are saying they've got the football. Kicking off preseason week number 2. Geno Smith in there. Expect to see him for a long time. That's Noah Fant, the tight end. Came over in the Russell Wilson trade.
It's just, practice.
That third one, I got excited when watching it live. And I said to the person I was working with who didn't give a fuck, I'm not really paying attention to this, Dan. But I was like, man, under Coach Nagy, that play goes 20 yards. It just feels like I think your point is going to say that the defense was swarming there. And everyone was going to the ball and all the cliches that we can manifest in our head. But the point is, you're right, man. They were so much more aggressive than when, the whole team was always flat when Nagy was there. Fucking flat at all times. It just felt like, even though it's preseason, the team were you saw Kmet, with just the emotion of catching that big ball. And it just felt like the team is inspired. And I know there's a honeymoon period that at some point there's going to be adversity and that's going to end. But for right now, the energy seems right where we want it to be.
Like a breath of fresh air. And the play we're talking about, Jordan and Sonny, is this one with Cole, Justin and Cole. This is what I want to see a lot more of.
Another example of the poor offensive line play affecting the quarterback.
Lucas Patrick's got a handing through the starting center. Will not go tonight. Fields throwing and finds Kmet in a seam.
That's the first drive.
I love it.
When he got off the ground, he yelled with this expression of just intensity that I can't articulate it properly, but you would have never seen it. Everyone was so flat at all times under Nagy, and I can't oversell that point.
So it's like you can feel the breath of fresh air, especially in this offense. Like I said before, I love the Green Bay playbook. I don't like the Packers, but I've always loved their playbook. Jordan, talk about that. This is what we wanted to see under Nagy, was getting a look for the play fake, getting the quarterback on a rollout to waggle, and hitting the open man. Talk a little bit about that, what we're going to see this season.
Yeah, I promise I'm not trying to rain on anybody's parade or shit on that play. It's a good play. It's, to me, what's funny, though, it's good. This is what you should see during preseason. But that is OG Mike Shanahan, Elway, Davis in the backfield. Hey, we're going to run Shannon. It is as West Coast Shannon
Absolutely
101 as it gets.
My favorite offense.
It is a rollout with a flood concept. You're flooding. You're flooding the zones by running all the routes to a half of a field. You're giving your quarterback an easy half field read. With the levels concept, you have your alert running deep. That's if for some reason the defense totally miscommunicates and fucks it up, you have a free alert touchdown.
Yep.
Then you have your flat in case shit gets hairy, a mid-level if they choose to ride too high or ride too low. Then you have commit, which is what we hit.
Yep.
And then if for some reason it doesn't go well, Justin, you have your legs, make a play.
Right, exactly. And that's a winning formula. A tough defense, West Coast playbook. Now, Fields made a nice throw over two defenders or in between two defenders. But you're right. You've got the flood concept. You've got the one receiver running deep where if the defense misses that guy, you've got a home run. And then if nobody's open, you've got Justin Fields who can make plays with his legs. Danny, this is something Nagy never did for us. This is why I wanted Nagy gone after the second season, because I knew it wasn't going anywhere, Danny.
You did call that. I can't take that away from you. And the same thing, again, Shane Marsaw called Cody Parkey from the moment he was signed. And, oh, my God, we all remember the playoff game. So that was right on. You were spot on with Nagy. And at the time, I was like, well, come on, man. He got Coach of the Year. And I think that's been his crutch and still his crutch now. So I just agree with you. The Fields or even Trubisky, although Mitch, looked like Mitch the way we remember Mitch playing with Pittsburgh this past week. But I still think he would have benefited with a different coach, being Mitchell Trubisky. And I'm glad Fields is away from the bald fuck. Yeah, I think he's going to shut a lot of people up this year. And the narrative on ESPN is, I don't know if he can survive this season. I don't know if he's going to be he's going to get hurt. It's like they're rooting for him to get hurt.
I hate the negative Nellies on Fields. Look, last week we talked about how Trubisky may have benefited from a coach like Luke Getsy. Man, he would have done that. I always said that Trubisky's more of a West Coast offense quarterback, making plays like that. He's great rolling out and making throws like that. But hey, we had to get rid of him. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I knew that Nagy would never get the potential out of Mitch that a lot of fans, especially Mike North, who's a huge Mitch Trubisky proponent, Nagy would never get anything out of him, and now he's gone. And like I said last week, it's so ironic that Ryan Pace's biggest draft pick was gone as a result of the coach that his first coach he ever selected to be the head coach. Just both of his choices destroyed each other. It was like a mutual destruction. But Sonny, are you excited about the Luke Getsy offense?
Yeah, and I agree with you. It's just seemed to me, Fields. To me, he goes through reads where I don't want to say that Mitch never did that. It just never felt the Mitch. Let's say I remember the game against the Lions. Mitch scored the touchdown, maybe to go up, but he threw it to Montgomery. And I remember Nagy being so excited at the press conference, like, guys, that was his third read. It's like, oh my God, like, what was his third or fourth year? And like, we're celebrating that he finally made it to his third read. So what I like about Getsy is it just seems that they're going to do a lot more rollouts to help him out. Cutting the field short, like what Jordan said. But also Fields, to me, looks like the guy that they'll eventually be able to build blocks, where he just, to me, looks like the type that can drop back and let it sling. He looks to me a gunslinger. You know what I mean? He doesn't, to me, Mitch is the pure, like, he needs a very good run game, and he'll give decent results. He'll be a good quarterback. Fields, to me, I think they'll help him out with the rollouts and everything, but that'll be just a building block to get him used to just a pure drop back when he needs to be. Because you guys can disagree with me here. What I don't particularly like with the playbooks that are all designed around the rollouts and whatnot is Tennessee Titans. I mean, the moment you stopped the run in the playoffs and he was on what's his face to now make the throw from the pocket.
Tannehill.
Tannehill. I mean, they collapsed, bro. It's like, and it's like, to me, I think Fields can be that guy that's gonna dice you up no matter what you ask him to do. Now, I think he's gonna be that building block, but he can do it. I can see him that he can do it. if you watch this last game, man, just give him some time. That kid's gonna deliver. So yeah, that's all I gotta say about that.
It's interesting you mentioned Tennessee because Aldo and I always said this. If Derrick Henry would have been on Matt Nagy's roster, I'm not saying Jordan Howard was Derrick Henry, but it may be a poor man's version. Nagy would say, "I guys, he just doesn't fit our system.
God,
I didn't come here to run the I formation."
You're hurting me, Dan, because I mean I'm not trying to tell people that Jordan Howard is the best thing since sliced bread, but I thought he was a very good, competent running back.
Absolutely.
Ran the way like, and this is the. I mean, I hate talking about Nagy because it's like we should be past that, but that is the story of that.
Just didn't when the season starts.
Well, and that's the thing, Dan. Like that's the story. That is the story of Nagy's tenure. Is
he heard us, Jordan.
Oh yeah, I want my guy, and I want him now. And that means if it's not Jordan Howard, I want David Montgomery. And if it's not, who was our tight end at the time? Zach Miller. Was Zach Miller's hurt? I want Trey Burton, and then I want Jimmy Graham, and then
Trey Burton was like, "I'm too afraid to play in the playoff game."
It's just it was a problem, and I mean, this is to go back to the current times. I mean, one thing I absolutely love about what you're watching in preseason, and preseason wins don't always amount to much. I mean, granted, you have the Ravens who are always consistent; they're on like some 22-game winning streak, but really what you're looking for is, this is my opinion, the preseason is much less about the X's and O's and much more about the Jimmies and Joes. And so what I'm taking some solace in, and I mean, it's a little bit of a contradictive point, but I think that the Bears are coached well. You can see discipline. The talent is going to be the real issue. What does the top-end talent look like? How far can the talent take you in addition to the good coaching and discipline? But what I do like saying is that when you're comparing teams, and I watch quite a few preseason games. Anybody that listens to me now knows I'm not just watching Bears football. The thing you can glean from watching these games is how does the team look from first line to third line and beyond? How does the depth look? How are the penalties? Is the team playing cohesively? Are they playing hard? Can you see some type of culture, as we've talked about with gang tackling and the hits principle, punching the ball out? You can glean some of that and see the teams that have it together as opposed to teams that don't right now. And I'll give you a couple great examples. The Jets were a team that spent all this money, had all these great draft picks. And I understand Zach Wilson's not there, but they're sitting there watching Marcus Mariota and Desmond Ridder eat them alive in coverage. And I'm sitting there going, this is Robert Saleh, defensive-minded coach. This is your defense. You got Sauce Gardner. You got Reed, the corner from Seattle. You've got Jordan Whitehead, the safety. Like, what is going on? How are you having all these issues, Seattle? Hey, I don't actually think Seattle's as bad as everybody thinks. But how can you sit there and be in a preseason game and you can't get a common snap count right? These are the things that you can glean. I mean, last one, Washington. Washington's going up against KC, and they just look like their defense is a mess. And you're going, this is Jack Del Rio. He's in his third or fourth year. How do you not have the defense humming in a preseason game against Kansas City's backups? And that's the thing that Bears fans should take a lot of appreciation with, is that through 2 games in the preseason, the Bears look like a well-oiled machine, even though they're running somewhat basic concepts. Sure, they're not getting into the end zone. But we talked about this for months, Tooch, Dan, I think everybody on Barroom. This is going to be a team that you have to pack your lunch for, pack your hard hat, because it's going to be a pain in the ass. Once you get off the bus, you're going to be dreading having to play the Bears. And I think that you've seen that so far.
You know, in 2020, when we played them, the Bears started the year out really well, if you recall. It was like 4-1, 5-1. And Indianapolis came into Soldier Field, and it wasn't a blowout. Like, remember, we were wearing the orange, and Foles started, and we had a shot to win the game, but it was a 4, or in you all's time zone, the Central Time, it would have been a 3:25 kick. The point is, it's just frustrating all day. The Bears ended up with like 12 or 15 points, and it just felt like they couldn't get anything done. And it was a very frustrating game to watch. In fact, my girlfriend and I at the time, Sarah, broke up that day right before kickoff, which was actually a good thing. But that game was terrible to watch and frustrating. It kind of made me think of what Jordan said. Like, we can do that to other teams now, potentially, with that system, and just frustrate the shit out of them and hold them to 16 or 20 points. And meanwhile, our offense is going to be better than people think with the good coach or at least a better fuck, man. The system is going to be so much better than Nagy's with a stud at quarterback. I don't see why the Bears aren't going to be a winning team. I've said it over and over and over. I know Sonny agrees with me too.
Well, I'll tell you, like Jordan said, you got to pack your lunch for this team. You see the swarming defense. Another Laz says low number of penalties. You know, I'm in agreement here. Let's see if I have anything else before we move on. I want to talk. Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. No, I was going to say, just going back to what we were talking about earlier, everyone swarming the ball. Man, I used to watch that, but only see it on the opposing team doing it to the Bears. And like seeing it now, it's like oh my God, I can't wait for this next season to start. Just to see everyone that actually cares about winning the game, man.
It's what we used to see under Lovie Smith, guys who play hard, swarm to the ball. It's basically the same defense, wouldn't you say, Jordan? You know,
not quite, but I mean, sure, it's got the same tenets.
It's a descendant of the Tampa.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, Eberflus is an acolyte of Marinelli. Marinelli was an acolyte of Lovey from Dungy from Monty Kiffin. That's your lineage.
Yep, the Monty Kiffin was the architect.
Yes.
You know, make the offense march down the field in 12 to 20 plays. You know, and the sooner one of those plays is gonna be a turnover, right? Or
that worked so well against Brett Favre because he was impatient.
Right.
But in the juxtaposition with Rodgers doesn't give a shit if it takes 15 plays or not.
Well, God, Dan is hitting it right on the head here because this is such a valuable point. Is Favre did struggle with that because what the cover 2 system is all about is we're going to just test you and force you to be patient, move it down the field, dinking and dunking, nickel and diming. Where Rodgers, I mean, it's fun. I wish I had the memory right now to think of the interview with Aaron Rodgers, but this was before he played the Rams 2 years, maybe it was last year, not this last season, but the year before that, where he was getting ready to play the Rams, and they were asking him, how do you deal with this new evolution of the too high defense, too high shell? Look, they're going to play a lot of quarters, cover 2 on you. How do you deal with that? And he said, look, the entire premise of this defense is that they're hoping that I don't get impatient. And as long as I just stay cool, take my check downs, we'll have no problem winning. And as Dan said, that's really why Rodgers has continued to lead off to 2 consecutive MVP seasons in that time, because of how patient and willing he is to take what the defense gives him. And then as soon as they make a mistake, he's crushing you.
Yep.
I fucking hate that guy.
I do too.
Like, I really hate that guy. Like, I can't even explain how much I hate him. Thank God Jordan Love is not like the third one in the line, because Jesus Christ, I don't know what I would do.
Well, I mean, maybe not quarterbacks, but I'll tell you what, they apparently are drafting offensive linemen like they always have, where Zach Tom is the story now, where David Bakhtiari is coming back a little slow. Elton Jenkins is just getting back. And you've got 4th-round rookie Zach Tom looking more than solid at right tackle.
Some negative news that's come out, just to transition. Not that, I mean, I know I'm not trying to step on your toes here, Tooch, but something that I assume can be alleviated with the proverbial club. But the fact that Brisker had to have a surgery going into his first ever game against San Francisco in an official setting, that bothers me. And I know he's going to probably have it wrapped up and stuff, but that's got to hurt his ability to a certain extent. I know he's an in-the-box safety. He's going to be physical. Still, don't you guys worry about that with Brisker?
It's funny, Dan, because I have I don't want to say I have a big deal with it. Look, injuries. I mean, there's a lot of people that were upset today to hear that the Bears are going to be playing the starters for a long time, and I'm going, look, injuries can happen in practice. They can happen. I like to reference, like, just this offseason, Minkah Fitzpatrick was on the PUP list because he was riding a bike and fell down and hurt his wrist. Nothing to do with football. So injuries can happen anywhere. But Dan, to your point, it does. I'd be lying to say it doesn't concern me a little bit. I mean, I love Brisker. I was very happy about the draft pick, but this is a situation that's followed him a little bit. And this tends to be par for the course. When you're a physical player and you throw your body around with reckless abandon, these things happen. I thought it was a little auspicious that he came out in his first preseason game wearing the same shoulder brace he was wearing from Penn State. And I know some people can say, well, look, that's just what he's comfortable with. Maybe. But he had the bum shoulder last year. Now he's coming back. It took one game for him throwing himself around to fuck up that thumb. I'm not saying we're getting Bob Sanders, but I mean, that was immediately, Dan, to your point, like as a guy, as NFL historian, that's the only guy that kept ringing in my head when I'm hearing about the hand surgeries. I'm like, do we have a Bob Sanders on our hands?
I just worry about him. I know everyone's going to say, it's he's going to be fine. But, if we're going to beat San Francisco week 1, we need all hands on deck. And then we've got week 2.
Well, DeAndre Houston-Carson has been turning heads. I think he can fill in, hold down the fort if anything were to happen and Brisker were out for a while. And then you've got a guy like Elijah Hicks who kind of popped a little bit this past game. I know that Jordan's you're a little bit high on Elijah Hicks, I think, the Cal safety.
Yeah, I liked him at Cal. I'm not down on him now, but I've been a little concerned with some of the things I've seen on tape in preseason so far. And I mean, I'll give you the good news and the bad news about it. So the problem is that I don't think that he's showing the range that he showed at Cal. And we've seen quite a few honey hole shots in that cover 2 kind of quarter system where, look, there's this little space in between where I'm hoping I need my safety to get over there and make a play. And I haven't seen him do that. That's 2 games now. Now, where some would say, well, damn, so does he not have the range? That's a problem. Can't play safety if you don't have that. I don't know if it's so much the range. This is the good news coming. I think safety is a hard position to play for and understand your assignments and your roles and getting everybody lined up and understanding your alignment, your space, and your zone responsibility. That I think it's entirely possible he could be overthinking it, which is stopping him from getting to his zone in time.
Right. And do you think DHC can hold it down if he had to?
Yeah, I like DHC just fine. I also just tend to think, though, that I'm with Dan. I think that Brisker, there's no way he's not playing. He's just going to hard cast it up. I'm a guy I was really fond of, and I was making jokes at the time that, like, I wish the Bears would have found a way to trade that conditional 7th, was Tyree Gillespie. Tyree Gillespie from the Raiders just got traded to the Titans. He's playing in a hard cast in his preseason game and still hitting people. So I don't think Brisker is going to be held out with that. It's just you don't expect any interceptions from him, but as far as throwing a shoulder into somebody, I don't think that'll be the issue.
Right. I mean, look, a lot of teams are going to be cutting guys, and I'm sure the Bears will be grabbing guys, as they come available, and who knows what sort of things are going to happen. But like you were talking earlier, 25 to 30 plays, Coach Eberflus says the starters will probably get. Justin Fields going to get a little extended time. Under Matt Nagy, we wouldn't have seen that. Nobody from the starting would play. I kind of like it, man. I want to say when we did that, I want to say the last two years we lost the opening week.
Yeah, I mean, and I'd love Sonny's take on this too, but I you're not going to hear any complaints from me. I don't believe that there's any value in sitting your starters, especially with a new regime, new offensive line still trying to gel together. Montgomery hasn't ran behind the offensive line in any formal capacity in a game. There's no reason why I would ever tell those guys to sit at this point.
Sonny, do you like the starters playing 25 to 30 on Saturday?
Yeah, no, I do. I mean, it's clear that even through these first two preseason games that offensive unit just needs more gelling in real live games, sort of a speak. So definitely I'm excited for it because if they didn't, you're looking for what, over like a month would pass before they would take another snap. If that's all they did against the Seattle. So absolutely, I'm excited.
Jordan, behind Cole Kmet, we don't know what we have. We have a couple veterans and a couple young guys like Jake Tongas and Chase Allen. Are the veterans going to make the team, O'Shaughnessy and Ryan Griffin, or will it be younger guys like Tongas and Allen?
No, I actually think that you'll probably see the vets take those spots with a guy like, as a personal favorite, I would prefer Allen. I thought Allen was great at Iowa State. But I also think that those are guys you can stash on a practice squad, where Ryan Griffin and O'Shaughnessy, not that they're all stars, but they understand the scheme. They're good leaders.
Yep.
I think those guys tend to be glue guys on your roster that would stick around.
Yeah, exactly. They understand the NFL, the plays, the soft spots in the zone, how to be a leader in the locker room, how to practice, how to teach the younger guys, how to keep the locker room in line. That's why I'm with you with O'Shaughnessy, who's a guy from my hometown. I love Allen too. He played 30 minutes down the road from me here at Iowa State. And O'Shaughnessy is a guy that his family owned the funeral home in my hometown. Dad I used to see his dad at keg parties. To be honest, he was a couple years older than me. let's see. Another guy I want to talk about is will the Bears keep 2 or 3 quarterbacks? Sonny, Nathan Peterman is a guy. I don't know whether he has practice squad eligibility. I think we talked about this, but the Bears have 2 guys who got a minimum of 6 years NFL experience. I don't know. I'm thinking they only keep 2, and I think Peterman's the odd man out. When anything happened to the other 2, he's a phone call away.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I there's not a whole lot that I would add to that. I just don't think having 3. I mean, to me, it almost looks like they're now sure that if Fields is going to finish out the season hurt, I guess. So, no, I wouldn't like that at all.
Jordan, 2 quarterbacks or 3?
I always would say let's go with 2. I think the roster, 1, you can always call a Peterman. I don't think that the demand for him would be too outrageous. But I also think in general, you have other spots that you can fill with depth that can play special teams, can be there if a receiver goes down. Questions about, hey, what's your linebacker depth look like? If that's let me give you a good example. You keeping Peterman or you keeping Matthew Adams? That's a perfect example where I think Adams brings more value to this team, understanding the hits principle, being a guy that can fill in at either of the linebacker spots, as opposed to keeping a Peterman or Sanborn for that example. It's just there's not enough of a reason to keep 3 quarterbacks. Right.
Danny, before we go, we talked a little bit about the guys who were cut are, let me see, Daz Newsome we talked about, Julian Davenport, LaCale London, Bo Pete Keys, who actually made a nice play, and Jake Vargas. I've got the Bo Pete Keys play, but he gone.
Argued about in the booth. Here's Jacob Eason. Looking for more points in a hurry, and it is knocked away. Arthego Whiteside and Bo Pete Keys. Keys knocking it away at the last second.
Bo Pete Keys, Jordan, any thoughts?
I mean,
it looked like it might have been PI there. But.
Look, I don't take joy in anybody being cut, but these are guys to me that somebody's got to go. And I mean, look, we're already making some progress with wave injured guys like Michael Joseph and a few others. Bo Pete Keys, no tears shed for me there. The surprising one from all of that to me was actually LaCale London. Not that he was an all-star, but I actually thought he had done it pretty solid in run defense, held his own, was pretty stout in that department. But look, at the end of the day, like we talk about, you've got to get to 53 somehow. And I guess if you were to ask me, do you want to keep a LaCale London or a Kamara or a Snowden, I'd rather keep Kamara or Snowden. So there's your answer.
Yeah, like I said, the defensive line is deep. Julian Davenport was a guy he saw. I want to say he saw some snaps last year, I think, right?
Yeah, he did.
Danny, one of the tackles last year filled in.
I honestly didn't recall his name, honestly, but Jordan says he did, so I believe Jordan.
He was a vested veteran, so I think he's entitled to some compensation, right?
Yeah, he's
waived.
He's been playing for the last couple of years. I mean, he was at the Colts last year. He was with the Texans a while back. He was part of the Tunsil trade where he went from Miami to Houston with Jonathan Martin and a few others. He's been a guy that's gotten plenty of play time, but he's also been somewhat of a liability, and it's a reason why he was available. It's a reason why you're cutting him at this stage. He's a guy that isn't quite a turnstile, but you also are not. I talk about on offensive line, you want guys that you can almost set and forget. I can sleep easy at night knowing they're not going to get my guy killed back there. And Davenport is not a sign or a beacon of that at all. So I'm, again, no love lost seeing him walk out the door.
All right. Let's see. Got a few things here. 7 3-and-outs for the Seahawks and 10 punts, man. Not a bad showing from the Bears defense. Like I said, special teams were up and down. Bears will finish that preseason game at the Browns, I think, or are they home? We know
they're on the road.
They're on the road, right? Okay. Tell us about last year, Dan. Not just the fans, but the game of last year.
Oh well, before let me just talk about the format now. Since with the imbalanced schedule,
Yep.
Like last season, the Bears had 2 preseason games at Soldier Field, but they had only 7 games, or correction, they had 8 games at home as opposed to 9 on the road. But this season, the NFC gets to host the extra game, and thus we have 1 fewer preseason game, but we have 9 home games as opposed to there's 1 less on the road. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
But yes, for years and years and years, the Bears and Browns closed the preseason out against each other. And if you recall that really odd game where John Fox took Trubisky out and then put him back in at the end of the game, and he took like this massive hit to end the preseason. We're like, what the fuck is this man doing? But to answer your question about last season's game, in Fields' first start, it was one of the worst games ever. Like it was like the Cutler game against the Giants, where he's just getting hit every time he drops back, and Nagy knows how to make no adjustments, and it'll go down as the game where Khalil Mack hurt his foot.
Yep.
He played a couple of more, but that was the beginning of the end for him in Chicago as well.
Didn't they get 5 touchdowns against us in that game?
Oh God, I don't
Man,
know.
that defense kept us in that game. If I remember correctly, the defense really kept us in the game all the way until the fourth quarter, when he was just like floodgate opened up, and that was it.
I would have put Foles in at that point because Fields had just been beaten up so badly. What do you expect of the kid making his first start? I told Aldo that in the stands. I was like, fuck it, just put Fields or Foles in. This is what he does. He comes off the bench and out of nowhere, and he's like the closer, if you will, in a baseball game, where he just makes an impact when he's coming off the bench. But Nagy didn't know how to do that either. It was horrible. We had great seats for a butcher. It was terrible.
Yeah, I don't remember the final score, but it wasn't pretty. Let's see. I want to ask if any of you guys know what's up with David Montgomery. He has yet to play in a preseason game. Jordan, is he injured? Do you know?
I don't think he's injured. I don't know. Maybe I just think too highly of him. I think he's a guy that's earned the respect very early on, and he's getting the same treatment. Dan had asked earlier, has Riley Reif been practicing? Riley Reif has been practicing. These are guys that, for whatever reason you want to call him, Reif's a little different. He's older. He's well-established. But I think Montgomery is a guy that they want those legs nice and fresh. No chance of an injury. You're going to be our workhorse this year. We're going to put a lot of work on those legs, a lot of miles. And I think there's a certain level of respect of, look, I'm a pro running back. I know how to do this. I was making wine out of dirty water with Nagy's offense. And at the end of the day, believe me, I can get this done. Let's just keep me fresh. And I think that's why he's not playing.
You think you see him on Saturday?
Yeah, actually, I do in that respect. I think
I do too.
This is the full. I mean, and of course, we'll see. And Flutes had already talked about certain guys are going to be pulled out before others. But I at least think for that first series, at the very least, this is going to be true dress rehearsal, the way that you'll see it in San Francisco, barring any injuries or massive upsets where, God forbid, like a Tevin Jenkins just totally blows in practice for the next 2 weeks, then sure, maybe they'd move something out. But by all accounts, if San Francisco was 2 days after this Cleveland game, I think you're going to see that full, true first-team offense and defense in that first unit or that first series.
Do we know if the Browns are playing their starters or what are they going to do? Has that been announced?
Who is their starter with Watson out for 11 games?
I meant for the defense. My bad. I'm sorry. But yeah, good point, Dan. But to answer that, I do know that. To answer that, Watson is not playing. They're going to play with whoever that guy is.
Jacoby Brissett.
Yep.
Okay.
And then it's Josh Dobbs is their second, and Josh Rosen is their third.
Josh Dobbs has actually looked pretty good. Josh Rosen has not looked good.
Yeah, that one hurts me because I was a big believer in Rosen coming out. But
well, there was a time when people thought, hey, he got released, maybe come on the Bears and have Nagy mold him into something. I never
remember all the shit
much.
he talked when he got drafted that night. He was like, I'm going to make every team that didn't draft me, they're going to regret it. I'm going to beat them every time we play. And he's never going to play again, evidently.
Well, he got a real shit stick, kind of like Jimmy Clausen for the Golden Domer fans. He ended up going to an awful team. Rosen went to the Cardinals when they had it was Larry Fitzgerald aged already, and they had nothing else.
Rosen's first appearance was against the Bears.
Yeah, I mean, like that Cardinals team ended up with the number 1 pick to select Kyler Murray for a reason, and it wasn't all just the rookie quarterback. And that's the Jimmy Clausen thing too. Like Jimmy Clausen got stuck on a shitty situation in Carolina. That team ended up with the number 1 pick to take Cam Newton the next year. I promise you, it wasn't all Jimmy Clausen. Like these guys just got handed a shitty situation.
Yeah.
And ended up having their careers ruined because of it.
Yeah, if you remember, they were like, hey, Arizona, they're not going to pick a quarterback. They just picked one last year. Well, you're not passing up Kyler Murray, so goodbye, John. They were no qualms about cutting loose their first round quarterback from the year before, which
if I could give somebody, we were talking a little bit about the Cleveland game. I figured I'd give a little bit of a breakdown regarding that for the people that are wondering about the starters. So, I mean, yes, Watson's not playing, but Cleveland's offensive line is fantastic. You'll have Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, Dearness Johnson, waves of running backs. I mean, everybody loves the Bears running back room. Go look at the running back room.
And they've got Amari Cooper now, too, on the outside.
Amari Cooper, Donovan Peoples-Jones. You've got Harrison Bryant, David Njoku at tight end. As far as defense, though, I mean, just my 2 cents, the way I would work on beating their defense is where they are questionable is right up the middle at that 3-tech and 1-tech position. You're talking about Taven Bryan, kind of a bust of a first-round pick for the Jaguars that's now there, as well as a guy, Jordan Elliott and Tommy Togiai out of Ohio State. And then really at their linebacker core, it's Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. And then I think that's about it.
The defensive ends, though.
Yeah, so that's the whole point is if you
Myles
can find
Garrett.
a way to run up the middle and really wash those outside ends out and not put yourself in a bad situation. Because where the Browns are going to feast on any team is in 3rd and long. Their secondary is fantastic. Denzel Ward, Greg Newsome, Greedy Williams, John Johnson, Grant Delpit, Ronnie Harrison, Richard LeCount. Like they are
loaded.
Deep at secondary.
Yep, and you got Myles Garrett coming off the edge. Watch out. I forget the name of the other. They've got Clowney?
They've got Jadeveon Clowney, Myles Garrett, Chase Winovich.
Right.
I mean, like they've got a list of dudes coming after the quarterback. So that's the beautiful part is this offensive line needs to gel. They're going to get a real nice test on that Cleveland defensive line.
Do you feel that our offensive line will be better if, I guess once Lucas Patrick, we haven't really seen him in a live game, but once he gets back to playing and he gets into that center position, do you feel like that would solidify this line more? Or
I would hope so, and I tend to think it will. I'll tell you, I mean, we'll see what Lucas Patrick looks like coming back, considering that. I mean, not that I think a guy loses all his strength overnight, but I don't know how much strength work he's able to do with that cast on his hand. And then you're talking about a guy that has to get back used to snapping, understanding the protections, getting used to. I mean, because this is the thing we all talk about is like, oh, just put this guy in there and it's going to look good. And you have to think about what this zone scheme is, and a lot of it is you're actually deuce blocking or ace blocking, which is you're double teaming guys onto the second level. And some of that is understanding where your partner's hips are going to be in that double team. When does Tevin like to get off the block and move on to the next guy if I'm Lucas Patrick, or vice versa? If we're pulling Tevin, how quick is he out of the gap and out of the hole pulling, and how quick do I have to really seal and wall it off? There's a lot more intricacy than just going, oh, well, you know what? If Larry Board doesn't look good, we'll just plop Riley Refid. Like it doesn't always work that way.
Yeah, when you mentioned protection, I know me and Dan spoke on this on Twitter. Man, I was so excited to see Fields. Well, I guess going back to the Kansas City game, recognize blitzes and point them out on his own, not like have a center point it out for him or something like that. I thought that was huge in his second year to be already doing that. I know there's definitely, just to me, it shows that he's learning what the defense is, what packages are coming out, what are the tells. I just know that it's going to really help him out in his career with the Bears,
No, Sonny, I think you're spot on. And I mean, that's something that, you're astutely pointing out. I'm sure Dan's seen it too. Justin's done a really good job directing protection, identifying blitzes from second level defenders or overhangs. And that's a credit to him. I mean, God, like I said, I'll never forget, we saw him damn near get decapitated versus Buffalo in the preseason, where I'm hoping, and this is what you're talking about, Sonny, is I think Lucas Patrick was brought there in a large part to set the protection. He's familiar with the Green Bay scheme, understands the wide zone. Let's take something off of Justin's plate and let Lucas take care of the protections. What this has maybe helped with, though, is because Lucas isn't there, you've seen Justin have to take a bigger role in that, calling the protection with Mustipher. And what I'm hoping we see is kind of a final point, whether it be Mustipher or Patrick, is that the center is responsible for the line and protection calls. But then the quarterback, being Justin Fields, can trump that protection call at any point. If he wants to have a tight end come in, chip a block,
anything that he wants to do to change the protection, he can trump the center. But again, that's going to have to come down to the relationship with Justin Fields and the center so that they understand where they're at on the protections.
Do you think Justin Fields, look, he can use 25 to 30 snaps in this offensive system. It looks like he still hasn't learned to trust his footwork in this playbook and whatnot. That's a big part of this offense, is having your drops and your footwork set, and knowing where the play and the ball is supposed to go. You've got to think fast. So I'm okay with him playing. We want to see David Montgomery. We want to see the offensive line. Like you said, Riley Reif probably won't play, but it looks like Reif. I still think Reif's going to be the starting left tackle once the season opened, because you want that veteran leadership out there. Last year, the Browns, they really started off strong. You thought, hey, this is a team that could win the AFC North. And then towards the second half of the season, the Browns tailed off. They're still going to have a pretty darn good defense, which is a little bit concerning, Danny. You saw it last year. I don't know how much defense is going to be playing this season, but does any of it concerning to you? Is any of it concerning?
Absolutely. But I hope for Fields' sake that this is like his revenge game. Other teams always have, or other players always have it against the Bears, albeit in a preseason format. We'd love for him to see the Bears, regardless if they defer or however they get the ball, regardless if it's to start the game or Cleveland punts or whatever. I would love to see Fields go the length of the field, almost like last week against Seattle, and get a touchdown as opposed to the field goal. But if he could, have like a 12, 15 play drive, something like that, and score some points, I'd almost be like, go ahead and chill the rest of the game, bro. We'll put in Simeon. Just get a touchdown. Do something in your own mind to redeem that the snuff film that was week 3 last year.
Yeah, Deshaun Watson can still play this last preseason game. Am I wrong about that?
He can play.
He may be able to, but no, I don't think he's. Well, one, we know for a fact he is not playing.
Okay, the Browns announced that he's not playing.
Correct. Yeah, he is. He's already started his counseling, which was part of the suspension.
Okay.
So,
right.
Yeah, he's already well on that path.
I wouldn't be surprised if they get Garoppolo.
Browns? Oh man,
especially if San Francisco cuts him.
Right, Garoppolo's still backing up Lance, right?
Jets fans were, because I was listening once Zach Wilson got hurt. I was listening to some of their podcasts. They're all calling. Well, not all. I shouldn't say that. But a lot of them are calling for Jimmy Garoppolo to be traded to the Jets. Well, that was before they knew that Zach Wilson wasn't going to be out for the entire season. So, never mind. I'm sorry. Let me pull that back.
It's Joe Flacco starting for the Jets, right, Jordan?
Yeah, Joe Flacco's the guy, and I love the Jimmy G to New York rumors when it was thought that Zach would be out longer, but Zach is looking like he'd be out maybe 1 to 2 weeks tops. So you don't want to sit there and this is the thing with Jimmy G, and Bear True saying like nobody wants Jimmy G. I think there's plenty of people that want Jimmy G, but this is the whole thing with like Roquan's a different guy. Roquan probably had tons of trade interest, but you look at teams and you go, what's the situation? And the 49ers don't have any leverage. Sure, I guess they could keep Jimmy because Trey is still cheap. But you don't really want that, because here's the thing, whether anybody wants to talk about it or not, the San Francisco 49ers team respect and love Jimmy G. Those starters, they do. They've played with him for years, took him to the Super Bowl. I don't think you want that conflict in your locker room if Trey comes out slow. So we all know that where this is headed, like you've got to unload Jimmy. Why would I give you anything for it? Like I'll give you a conditional 7th. But every quarterback spot is filled. Panthers, and you're not going to trade him to the Seahawks. You would hate to see the Seahawks become relevant if you traded Jimmy G into the division. So who else needs Jimmy G? And that's, I guess, Cleveland. But I don't know. Are you really trying to give up more draft assets when you just had to give away, I don't know, what feels like the next 4 years of your future for a guy that's suspended for 11 games?
Yeah.
I said this last week, too. It's worth pointing out once more. I feel like, and he may just be the biggest shitbag in the world, but I still think that this suspension was too hard on Watson. He missed all of last year. He was going to get 5 games this year, and now it's 11. He has not been charged with a crime. He's not being prosecuted. fuck, man, this guy's missing 2 years out of his prime. Now, should he keep his dick in his fucking pants or in his drawers or whatever? Yeah, he might just be a horrible guy, and I can concede that point, but I just feel like this is a bit harsh for him.
See, I love this, Dan. Boy, I don't know how deep we want to get in here, but I love this stuff because this is, to me, the NFL is so much, as I tell people all this all the time, like, the Bears are a fantastic dish, but there are also 31 other great dishes that are behind the shield, and I love talking about it. I'm curious why you feel like, and not that it isn't harsh, but I guess what I'm curious about is why you think that it shouldn't have been harsh. I understand everything you're saying, but at the end of the day, let's not forget that he got a paid vacation last year. Yes, he didn't play, but he was paid every single game his salary, didn't have to be on a shitty Texans team, getting the shit beat out of him, didn't have to perform or do anything, got to walk into Cleveland for a king's ransom and then sit there and have the leverage to demand a fully paid out guaranteed contract, get to manipulate the first year of his deal for $1 million. And yes, no crimes, no charges. I get all of that. But
essentially it's 28 games on the suspension if you combine last year with this 11. And again, I get it if he has not again come across as a great guy. I get that, but I just feel like it's piling on here to the guy that was not accused of a crime or charged with a crime. Everything is just an allegation. As far as we know, could be unsubstantiated. It could all be false. I don't think it's false, but I'm just saying it doesn't matter what I think. It's the fact that anyone can say anything about you. I could say, Jordan, you tried to touch my fucking dick.
Sure.
You fucking pervert. That doesn't mean you actually tried to do it.
But this is
I'm just saying, like, to me, how you take 28 games off of any star. Look what Jordan was like when Jordan came back in 95. He played, 30 games or so, and they were eliminated by the Magic. And in the game they're put out, the story was, oh my God, Michael was so tired. We've never seen Jordan that tired, because you take a guy who's quote unquote the best athlete of his generation in the league and arguably the best player ever, but he misses a year and a half, and he's not the same when he comes back. I'm not saying Watson is like Jordan, but you're taking this dude's prime. I mean, taking basically 2 years off of it for something he wasn't even convicted of. That's a dangerous precedent.
Well, so let me ask you this, Dan, though, because, I mean, this is where I'm at. I agree with you. It was never seen as a criminal matter. But look, at its most innocuous, most innocent level, I think we can agree that he was doing some really creepy shit, messing around with massage therapy. And this is where you're saying nobody has proof on that. I mean, we don't have to get into it here, Tooch, but Jenny Vrentas from the New York Times has covered this situation extensively. This is the Texans were culpable in this matter. He was seeing a superfluous amount of massage therapists.
And I think he's guilty. Let me just say that. I think he's guilty. But it doesn't matter what I think, though, because it's not a fact.
But so this is the thing, Dan, is that you have an obligation, if you're Roger Goodell, to protect the image of the Shield. And one of the players, one of your union workers, is acting in a way that smears a nasty image and look upon your organization.
If Aaron Rodgers does this, he's not suspended for 11 games.
And that's bullshit.
Aaron Rodgers can take drugs and doesn't even get suspended by his own admission.
Right.
So I think that they picked on Watson here. I think they're picking on Watson is what I'm saying. It's false outrage. If it had been one of the golden boys of the league, there'd have been nothing to it, is what I'm saying. But he's just the guy that was with the Texans. I'm not saying it's a racial thing. I'm just saying, though, he's not one of the guys heavily marketed by the league, so they can have this strong, Stalin-like response to it. When if it was one of their guys, they would have fucking swept it under a rug.
Dan, I'm not even arguing with you on that. Like, you want to go to a different, let's spin the wheel a little bit here, spin the horn. I'll give you a support right here. You basically had the findings, and I was fucking furious when the tampering allegations where they took the first round pick from the Dolphins. You basically had proof, smoking gun, that Tom Brady was fooling around and fucking around with considering going to the Dolphins with Sean Payton, and Don Yee, the mutual agent of both, kind of threw himself on the grenade, and somehow the Dolphins get some punishment, but Tom Brady walks away scot-free. Sean Payton has nothing against him. To your point, I'm not arguing that. Like, Deshaun Watson, sure, he got a raw deal, but let's not act like he didn't deserve a severe punishment for what he was doing. It doesn't just, and look, here's the thing. Two wrongs don't make a right. I actually think both should get the punishment. Same with Rodgers for doing, illegal substances and ayahuasca. I don't have any problem with experimenting with, what do they call it? Changing your mental visions and psychedelics. Excuse me, I'm blanking on the word.
Someone in the chat room just brought up when Peyton Manning shoved his balls in a woman's face at the University of Tennessee. But yeah, I do recall that.
I mean, this is what I'm saying. Like, yes, I think, and this is the problem with the league, is do I think that they should be a little bit more stringent about treating every single infringement from every player with fair course of matter and justice? Yes. But I also think just because they're not treating Rodgers or Brady the same doesn't mean that Deshaun Watson gets to walk around and asking masseuses to touch his dick with no
I agree with that, but he missed all of last year and he was going to get 5 games. I thought 22 games, that's pretty good. That's fair. And now it's another 6 is what I'm saying. I just thought that was the 5 I thought would suffice.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think, first of all, we have no standards, really. That's the fault of the league. But to Dan's point, like, the man paid his dues, if you want to call paid his dues, entire year, plus 5 games. All these allegations, as he said, they're right. But as people pointed out in the comments, him asking for sex, he ain't breaking no crime. He's not committing crime for asking for sex. Is it sleazy? Is he a piece of shit for doing that? Yes, absolutely. But
Roethlisberger allegedly raped a woman and didn't.
Yeah, so it's like, I think he paid his dues to the society, whatever you want to call him. But now we're tagging on, like, it seems like almost an entire new season. Well, I do agree that it just seems like over excessive. And then you look again, there's no standard. There's no standard.
Remember, Roethlisberger allegedly sodomized a woman in a sink or something against her will in a bathroom sink, and he didn't get suspended.
What Sonny said is what the conclusion the judge came to. She was the independent arbitrator. She ruled for 6-game suspension. Said the NFL does not have standards for violations of off-the-field behavior. They just don't. The NFL, as soon as that judge or arbitrator said that, the NFL should have started working on a set of rules for stuff like this to codify their rules of suspension for actions at whatever activities they've got enough of a historical record of things that happen.
And it's all BS. And to Dan's point, like we were talking about, J2K just put in a comment, the owner of the New England Patriots, when he was caught in with the masseuse or whatever the hell thing was, like, it just, you never heard about it. What, he hit the news 2-3 times and that was it. So if you're somebody in the league, it's swept under the rug. But if you're just I'm going to go there. But if you're a black kid, then they're going to put you on the stand. I mean, it's just how it looks like to me.
See,
I didn't want to say it that it was a race thing, but when Sonny says that, that's kind of what I feel, but I didn't want to say it, so I'm glad you said it, and I'll just agree.
you gotta call a spade a spade. That's how it looks like to me, man.
The like Cliff says down below there, the NFL, maybe they don't want rule or the suspension rules codified. I think that's a big mistake because the negative publicity is not what they want, but the NFL is a behemoth, a juggernaut. It just keeps rolling on no matter what sort of negative press it gets. But I'll tell you, in this generation, like some people said, Me Too, etc., political correctness, the NFL should be jumping on board with that in this case, this situation.
To look no further than it was one day. It's the Watson 6-game suspension. And then they were like, how could we just swipe that shit under the rug? Next day, let's talk about the Dolphins getting their first-round pick. It was 1 day separation to try and say, hey, that's old news. Let's not worry about Watson. Let's get that out of the way. And then, of course, there was the appeal and everything else. But, I mean, this is the NFL where everything is storyline to where we're going to push this under the rug. We're going to bring this to the forefront. Magically, he's coming back against a game via the Texans. Magically, Baker's playing his first game against the Browns. Like, this is the NFL. Everything is so neatly organized.
Well, another thing, going back a couple of years, but ESPN had that, I forget the writer, but they had a 28-page, even on your cell phone, was 27, 28 pages. You have to scroll through this investigative report on the Patriots that culminated in Garoppolo's trade to San Francisco. But one of the things that the article talked about was that the reason the league came down so hard on Brady with the footballs being deflated was because Goodell basically helped them destroy evidence when they were videotaping those teams, and was like friends with the fucking owner there. What's his name? Come on, somebody help me. The guy with the masseuse thing in New England, the owner. We were just talking about him.
Robert Kraft.
Robert Kraft. Yeah, Robert Kraft was Goodell's boy. So Goodell like basically helped him destroy evidence and was like, look, no more fucking cheating out of you. And then when they cheated again, that's when he came down harsh. But you're talking about a man that was accused of helping destroy evidence, being the commissioner. But they don't give a shit because he's made them so much money, they being the owners. That's why he can pick and choose punishments. That's why he can be inconsistent with the punishments, and he can help his boy in New England constantly over and over and over because he makes them money. So nobody gives a fuck. But Goodell himself is corrupt.
Well, God, Dan, you're hitting on something that really bothers me, and I guess it's in some ways you understand it, but I don't know. I have some weird affinity to the Washington football team, formerly the Redskins. I refuse to call them by their new name. But Dan Snyder is a perfect example of a guy that has really become just a black mark on the league. And you would imagine that these owners would try to extricate him and move him off, exile him out of the league. But I think that there's something to be said for as long as somebody's doing worse than me and I'm out of the spotlight, it's worth keeping that guy around. And I think you're seeing that with a Snyder or a Kraft or any of these other guys to where, not the McCaskies aren't doing anything. And that's one of the beautiful parts about being a Bears fan is the Bears are almost just so mom and pops that they don't commit any bad issues. But Jerry Jones and other guys like that, I'm sure they appreciate having a guy to take the fall constantly because they're making acts and doing things worse that look worse compared to what's going on around the league.
So while you're talking about, you just mentioned the Bears, how they're kind of mom and pop.
Yeah, they are.
It came out recently that the Bears are in the NFL. They're the number 5 most valuable franchise at $5.7 billion, Danny.
And
they'll be number 1 if they get that new stadium.
And they'll be number 1 which is what I've been saying the whole time. If they build the stadium, it's the perfect parachute for them to sell the team. The team.
I don't know if that's going to happen though. If you listen to George really cares about the Bears, regardless of what people think about George McCaskey. The motherfucker's a fan. I mean, it's his grandfather's team, and he fucking cares. So I don't know if he's going to sell the team until they may have to wait till George dies.
It's a great
God
point,
forbid,
Danny. It's a great point.
I don't think I've ever thought that the Bears were cheap. Just that I try to be somewhat realistic about it.
How long have you been a Bears fan?
Not as long as you guys. But here's the thing: it's not that I think that the Bears are cheap, at least in the modern time in the last 25 years. But
that's a good point. In the modern era, they're not cheap anymore. That's true.
Yeah, they aren't.
But I mean, you also have to sit there and realize that the Bears right now, the McCaskies, have income coming from one source, which is the Chicago Bears. Where this is the problem. Like, I'll give you the greatest example. I'm down the street from Stan Kroenke, the guy that owns the Rams and so many other franchises. Yep. That guy is able to create void years and put a ton of money in escrow to pay, Aaron Donald $10 more million a year right up front, no difference to the contract, extend Matt Stafford, pay A-Rob a ton of money. When you have income coming from different places, you have a little bit more wiggle room to throw money around in ways to strategically create benefits for you. But I mean, here's a great example. You can pay coaches whatever you want, as much as you want, have as many coaches. There's no rules on that, but it's all determined on how much money can you throw around. The Bears don't have the same amount of money and freedom to throw around because their single source of income is the Chicago Bears.
Hey, Jordan, when you mentioned Allen Robinson, and I think I know what Dan's going to answer, but have him go last. But do you guys feel that we missed out for not re-signing Allen Robinson? He was with us, 4 years? He only had one, if you would quote unquote, bad year. And it was under Nagy. Well, the 3 good ones were under Nagy too. But it was the last season where pretty much all the wheels are falling off for everyone. Man, it just feels like that was a missed opportunity to have for Fields to have that security blanket that can go up, catch that 50-50 ball, and then Mooney's our speedster. Plus he's from what I'm hearing, he's playing the slot receiver anyways. He's not really on the outside and whatnot. So do you guys feel that was like a mistake?
I mean, Tooch, if you want to go first, I can kind of dovetail after you.
Oh, I'll wait to hear what Danny says. I'm really interested in.
You mean
Go ahead,
a mistake? I heard the majority of what Sonny said, but you're saying it was a missed opportunity with A-Rob? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, like shouldn't we? You know, he only messed up, if you want to call it messed up, but didn't give his full go. Was his last year, but other than that, he was there. The first 3 years, man, that guy was our top guy. So it feels like just because of one season, we sort of like, fuck Allen, get the fuck out of here.
I liked, like I said, Robinson had a great playoff game. Statistically, maybe the best postseason game in Bears history for a wide receiver. But I always thought that the Bear fans, and I'm a Bear fan, I'm no better than anybody else. I'm just saying, but a lot of Bear fans always overloved him, in my opinion. I thought he was good. And I still hated the game where he made us lose to the Lions because he went out of fucking bounds before the first down marker. Like, what are you doing? But anyway, to answer your question, I don't hate A-Rob because of last season, but even last year, the reports were saying that Mooney was the one working with Fields, not Robinson. It felt like just from the jump, there was some kind of disconnect with Fields and some connection, conversely, with Mooney. So I don't know what it was, but they had no chemistry, it seemed. Robinson and Fields. So it doesn't, if you told me he went and balled out with the Rams and had this comeback player of the year thing, I wouldn't say that that's implausible, but if you told me he was just average, I would think, that's probably what's going to happen.
Now, Dan,
he's going to ball out with the Rams.
Fuck yeah, he is
right now.
I would agree with Dan that that's something that I also picked on when he was being asked those very first questions about at the beginning of the rookie season for Fields, like, hey, what do you think about Fields? He wasn't really talking about Fields a lot. He was always steering it towards Andy Dalton. So
exactly.
I would agree with Dan there.
Yeah, I mean, look, Allen Robinson, this is athletes that want big salaries like that. They're not going to once negotiations. This is what I was afraid of with Roquan Smith. Once negotiations break down, they're all about protecting their future. I mean, and that's the way the league is. That's the way these contracts are. And unfortunately, the players signed the deal with the league for part of that was franchise tag, the labor union deal. Maybe they'll renegotiate that when the labor union deal comes up again. I think it's up in a couple of years. I think to renew a new labor union deal, I think is up 2024. I want to say, is that right? Does anybody?
Sounds right.
I'm not sure. It could be 2025 or 2023. I don't know for sure. I didn't look it up beforehand, but I know. This is something that when we were talking about owning the team and like Danny was saying, George McCaskey's a huge fan. This is the thing Aldo and I have seen over the years, they love the team. They're great fans, but they're just not football people. They always hire these people who are doing it for the first time and learning on the job. It's one of the things I've said forever, which is why sometimes I feel like, hey, building the stadium is the perfect time for them to sell it. If they're not going to sell, they better hire some damn good football people. I think.
Well, hopefully we did this season. We hope.
That's what I said. I think we got some good. I think we've got some great coaches, man. I'll tell you that right now. They're good teachers. They get the players hustling and behind everything. The schemes look pretty decent. I know it's a little vanilla right now in the preseason. Let's see how good it looks once the the knives are out. But let's say.
I don't think they're going to be soft under Eberflus. That's the thing.
Oh, no.
They were really soft under Nagy. Really soft.
Yep. And like Jordan said, you better pack your lunch. You better come to play because you are going to get knocked around by this defense. Let's say that the Bears do get the stadium built and they become the most valuable team in the league. Whose vote is for them selling or them just they just can't let it go? What do you think, Sonny?
I think they'll keep it. I don't think they're going to sell it.
Danny?
I think George is again, Virginia obviously should, I hate to say this, but Virginia, where her age is, at some point, I mean, Betty White had a 100th anniversary birthday special scheduled, and she died right before it. So people could die at any minute. I'm not saying Virginia's going to die today or tomorrow, but in theory, George is going to outlive Virginia. I think that's a fair assertion, given their age discrepancy. So George is going to be the owner, if not the de facto owner now. So at some point, though, Virginia's gone. George is the owner. He's a fan. I just don't see him selling that team. The fact that his grandfather owned the team means everything to him. And I think he would have to die before that team would be sold.
I want to say that Virginia's like the majority owner, but I think there's like 9 or 10 other McCaskey scions and children and grandchildren.
And don't forget there was a fight over that when George died too.
Exactly, when Michael died, right?
Well, no, when George died.
When George Hallis, right? Okay.
Yeah, when they fought over that is what I'm saying. So, and Muggs died in '79. So they've been fighting seemingly for the team forever. They're not going to get rid of this team. Everyone's going to have to die before the McCaskies don't have this team. And as Bear fans, we just have to fucking accept that if you're going to be a fan of the team.
This is when they start making money now. This is once they build the stadium is when the McCaskies are going to really start making real money. So
aren't they making money now?
No. They are. I'm just saying, once they actually build this is when they really start making money. So there's no way they would absolutely.
Let's assume right now, just hypothetically, everyone that's watching, listening, or talking on the show right now, we're all Bears fans, right?
Mm-hmm.
If we were making money off the Bears and had access to go to every game, whether it's the road game or the home game, and sit in the fucking box, are we getting rid of that team? Fuck no. I don't care how much money you're going to give me. I'm taking that access forever. And they're getting paid on top of it. They're not getting rid of this team. They're not getting rid of the team. Why would they?
You could sell it with the stipulation that all that stuff comes with the sale. You know what?
If you get to still come to the games.
Yeah, previous owners
honorary owners.
Yeah, honorary owners. But I'm just saying, look, I'm kind of siding with Danny here. Look, the thing is like, yes, they're making the Bears hold all the cards, right now. They know that eventually their lease with Soldier Field is going to be up. They know that they could sell the team now as is and make $5.7 billion, which is what the franchise is valued at right now. Or they could take on this task of building an entertainment and sports complex in Arlington Heights, sell it for $10 billion, or keep making money off it. They build a casino, restaurants, fan experience, fan shop, shopping, bars, a special tailgate section. They could keep making money, like Sonny said, forever. It's like, but hey, let's. I want to talk about. Danny, you brought up something about building through the draft. Would it surprise you to know that there are only 5 players left drafted by Ryan Pace before 2020? What are your thoughts on that, Danny?
I think that's part of the reason that the Bears. It's been the part of the struggle going back to the end of Jerry Angelo's tenure. The Bears haven't drafted well. And then I know I'm going to take some shit over this again. They gave up 2 picks for Mac, and I'm sorry, that trade was a miss.
Yeah.
For what you thought Mac was going to be, you being all of us, the Bears fans, the Bears management, that trade is favorable to the Raiders in terms of who won the trade. The San Francisco trade to get Mitch, again, another draft pick that you missed out on. So you could argue Cutler's trade you could argue Jay's trade was a failure. And I loved Cutler. You could argue that trade was a failure. 2 draft picks. Julius Pepper's acquisition was at least a free agent, but again, a failure. So they've signed big people in free agency. They've taken risks on trades, but the trades didn't work out, and the free agents didn't work out, and the drafts didn't work out. That's why we've had 2 playoff appearances in the last decade, right there.
Right, we're down to 29 players on the entire roster that were drafted by Ryan Pace. Jordan, I want to ask you. I know you. I don't know if you were here for the last show where I talked about the missteps of Ryan Poles.
Nomad likes to shit on both of us for that.
Right. Look, I like Ryan Poles. The thing this is my thing with it is that, like I just said, the Bears are always hiring these people who are learning on the job. Ryan Poles is no exception. Ryan Pace was no exception. Phil Emery was no exception. Jerry Angelo was no.
Matt Eberflus, Matt Nagy, like
you see the pattern, right? So Ryan Poles had, he came into a position he had to trade Khalil Mack. The contract made it so that he had to part of the rebuild. Get something back for Khalil Mack, and Dan said, we gave up a lot for him. I mean, in hindsight, the Raiders got the better of that deal. We're fortunate we got something from Charge. We got one good year on it, and then Khalil Mack took a beating. He wasn't healthy the whole time he was here. It's understandable. He had to let Allen Robinson go. Akeem Hicks walked. We didn't get anything for him. James Daniels, who's
struggling in Pittsburgh,
struggling in Pittsburgh. Mitch Trubisky might not be there for very long as a starter. Bilal Nichols walked. We didn't get anything from there. He missed out on Ogunjobi and Ryan Bates. It's been a spotty track record for Ryan Poles. Instead of selecting an offensive-minded coach, he selected a defensive-minded coach, which looks like that's a good move now. But before,
because of the coordinator, in conjunction with our coordinator,
the hire of the coordinator, and Eberflus has turned out to be, at least well organized, has instilled discipline, which was missing under Matt Nagy. And then, as Jordan Silvera will agree, not selecting an offensive lineman or wide receiver early in the draft, arguably those were some top areas of need. But the defensive secondary also a top area of need. We couldn't get out the field on third down last season, so we can't knock Poles for that. Jordan, in spite of all that, do you still like what Ryan Poles has done?
Yeah, I mean, so we're very clear, and it's funny. I mean, we can take this wherever way you gentlemen want to go, because I even have so much to say about Ryan Pace. I think it's just, look, he left us in a very bad spot. I'm not trying to say he was a perfect GM, but I would love to dive deeper into like the Mac trade and, oh my God, he took an off-ball linebacker at number 7 overall. Was that really a bad move? I think that those situations involve a lot of context. But in regards to Ryan Poles, I want to be very clear. I cannot judge the man until results have been had with real meaningful games. And on top of that, it's something I fail at. I think a lot of fans should even just try to take something from this. Be patient. You can watch Matt Nagy win Coach of the Year, and all of a sudden you'd be sitting there going, my guy just won Executive of the Year and Coach of the Year. The Bears got home run hits. Yeah. And now we're ready to fucking bury both of those dudes and say they were the most garbage people in the world. And so even if Ryan Poles smashes it out of the park in a year, I'd tell you to hold your horses. And even if he blows and the Bears aren't very good, hold your horses. But to Tooch's point, I think the one thing I would say is, and this is where it bothers some people because they're like, Jordan, here he is trying to be a couch GM. I'm not. I think I invest a lot of time in trying to understand the game, trying to understand different levels of football. And my only thing is I just don't know if I agree. And it doesn't mean that I think Poles admittedly did something wrong because he went a different way. Just that I question, was his route, was the way that he navigated team building a way that I think was successful or the way that I would have done it? And admittedly, that's where I differ in a lot of those respects.
Danny? If I live to be 75 years old, I'm telling you, I'm going to be arguing Matt Nagy was the worst fucking coach of my lifetime. I'm never letting it go.
What did you think as, they're running Santa Slay and Tariq Cohen's bursting free and, it's Mitchell Trubisky 6 touchdowns against Tampa Bay and Trey Burton.
Yeah, all that's in 2018, and then we didn't see any of it. What did I think of it? I was glad we were winning games, but they proved to be you can the cliche with the Wizard of Oz, the curtain got pulled back and we saw this guy wasn't fucking qualified in spite of his award, which I can't take away from him, but the fact is, like, he was proven to be a complete and utter fraud.
No, I completely agree with that. I just think and this is my whole question is, at the time though, when we were 12-4, he's winning that award. Did you not feel some comfy way of saying we've got our coach for the long haul? Right in that
at the time, I liked the homage to the older things, like the reference to William Perry when Akeem Hicks scored and things like that. I thought that was cool, but all of that creativity went out the window. The next year, he was like, "It's Mitch Trubisky 2.0 in the offense," but He wanted Mitch to go to 2.0, but he himself never went to 2.0. He himself never even went back to what the foundation was in 18. Like he regressed, and everything was predictable. The league figured him out by the start of that Green Bay game in 2019 when we lost 10-3 at Soldier Field. It was like he could have been fired there because everybody knew the blueprint to beat him.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree.
Dan, I would argue that even in the 2018 at the tail end of that season, you could tell the offense wasn't scoring like they were scoring. It was mostly due to defensive pick sixes and whatnot. And then even the Philly game, like of course we're playing Monday morning quarterback now, but that's to your point, or if someone wrote in the comment of him not being able to adjust, you saw the early signs of what was coming, even at the end of 2018.
And
especially in that Philly game. Especially in the Philly game. I'm sorry.
They struggled to beat
the only time we seemed to work was in that hurry up offense, which seemed to be the only thing that works.
They struggled to beat San Francisco late in that year too, if you recall, out in San Francisco.
Absolutely.
And San Francisco was down that year.
Hey, what would I tell you? Dan, you mentioned it earlier that we traded with San Francisco for Mitch. Did you guys know that the previous season to that, we played San Francisco and we beat them, and that win was what put San Francisco above us. Had we lost that damn game, we would have been second overall instead of third overall.
Yeah, that was the Jordan Howard game in the snow.
Yes.
Yeah, that was a fun one to watch on TV. Cap, for all the shit that people want, and look, I'm on Cap's side politically. I'm not here to talk about the politics, but for all the advocates of Colin Kaepernick, and I know he took a team to the Super Bowl and all that, in that game at Soldier Field when it was cold, he did not want to be there. He absolutely looked as bad as Nathan Peterman in that game in 2016.
When Nagy refused to run the ball, and Mitch Trubisky was catching most of the blame from whether Bears fans, Bears Twitter, the media, whoever, and Nagy was for the most part avoiding catching some of the blame due to the fact that he won Coach of the Year in the previous season. To me, I wasn't fooled. I always thought the guy seemed phony to me, especially when he would say to Jordan Howard, I promise I'm going to get you going. I don't know if you remember that soundbite song.
I do.
Yeah.
And he never did.
He
never did. He never ran the ball when we could have ran the ball down some teams' throats. He had to get his passing game. He had to call his pass plays because the dude was a pass play calling junkie. He was not a head coach. A head coach, you've got to be more involved in other aspects of the game, managing the clock, overseeing, calls here on defense and special teams and offense, and rallying the players and whatever, and making sure everything is organized. And that wasn't Matt Nagy, woefully underqualified to be a head coach.
I unfortunately have to leave and go to my other job.
All right, Danny.
Let me say one more thing, and I'll step out. The thing I've said this before, but again, to your point, Nagy, the thing, if there was one moment to just, this is the microcosm of his problem. I'll never forget that game, and we ended up losing because of the missed field goal. What was the kid's name in 19 that we had from the Raiders?
Eddie Pinheiro.
Yeah, Pinheiro missed the field goal. But in that game, we're playing the Chargers, have this listless first half in Soldier Field, and the fans are booing when they go to halftime. To come out in the second half, they fucking have this 15, 16 play drive where they're using the fullback and running the ball, and they score. And you figure, okay, that's what you got. Let's run the ball. Let's win the game. And eventually they end up losing because they reverted back to the passing and shit. And then they didn't even set up Pinheiro on the right hash mark where he wants to kick from. Everything's fucked up. Pinheiro misses the kick. They lose. But after the game, Matt Nagy says, I was not brought here to run the I formation.
Yeah.
But the I formation gave you a chance to win this game.
That was the only thing that was working.
But yeah, he's just unable to realize what he has. That could have won you the game, but he's just so, what's the proper adjective here? Pig-headed? Stubborn? Like he's just so unwilling to realize what is actually beneficial to him and to the team, because he's got to be in the shotgun on 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1 just constantly. He was a fucking shitty coach. That's it, man.
The bald fuck.
Dan,
The
love you.
bald fuck. I wish him nothing but terrible things. Not to his kids, not to his wife, not to himself in terms of his body or I don't wish cancer or death on any of them. Do I wish him failure with the Chiefs or anywhere else he coaches? Absolutely.
It got so bad at the end that they were booing his kid at a high school football game, right?
I wouldn't have done that. I wouldn't have done that.
I know. None of us would have, but I mean, that's how bad it got.
Yeah, because everybody hated that fucker, and he deserved all of that vitriol. He was getting paid handsome money and was not living up to that contract and was crushing all of our fucking dreams.
I can't remember who said it, but I've listened to one of the podcasts that someone said, like, if Nagy had Walter Payton, we would never know Walter was Walter. Because
he wouldn't have run the ball.
Yeah. We just wouldn't know that Walter's that talented.
Well, gentlemen, I got to go. Pleasure talking with all of you.
All right,
Dan,
Danny.
you have a wonderful night.
Great show, Danny.
Be well, gentlemen. Thank you. Bye.
All right.
You as well. Have a good one.
All right, gentlemen. So we got a few minutes before we wrap it up. I want to go around the NFL a little bit while we got Jordan here. I know Jordan loves to go around the NFL with me. Want to talk about some things that I saw that are shaping up for this NFL season. We're talking about recently one of the buzz going on while we're talking about Trubisky. Kenny Pickett seems to look pretty good. Give us a little bit on Kenny Pickett in Pittsburgh. He looks like a mature for a rookie. Trubisky lose the job during the season. I think Mitch looks good. He's got the veteran. He'll probably start. What do you think?
I do think Mitch should start, will start. I do think, though, that, I mean, look, this has been writing on the wall, and it makes me even feel bad for Mitch because I think he went into Buffalo, tried to do his rehab year, and thought he was getting a legitimate chance to prove he's the guy. And I'm not saying they aren't giving him a chance, but the moment that you take a quarterback in the first round, it's just a ticking time bomb. It's just a matter of time before they boot you out and give it to the first-round pick. So I think he got a kind of a raw deal there. I think he should start. I think that Kenny Pickett's looks solid in the preseason, but as we've all kind of alluded to, that Pittsburgh offensive line looks like a mess right now.
Yeah.
And if you go back and look at Kenny Pickett at Pitt in his college days, the one thing he didn't have was great pocket presence, pocket feel, often got hurried and rushed, didn't feel comfortable in the pocket, was busting apart. I don't want to stick my rookie there with the offensive line not gelled up and looking good. Let Mitch be the guy to run the offense at that point.
But boy, in college, man, Kenny Pickett could drop it in there, man. Drop the ball in there on a dime, man. Drop it right in the bucket. Like the kid's moxie too.
Madison.
Yeah, and like the kid's potential too. He was my number one quarterback from the past season. Feel bad for Mitch Trubisky. Like I said, the one thing about Pittsburgh has going for it though is that defense. Though I'll tell you. What do you think, Sonny? You like the Pittsburgh defense? Because preseason's been looking pretty good.
Yeah, no, they're looking real good. Yeah, I mean, I don't have a whole lot to add to that, but yeah, they look decent.
What do you think? Defense be a strong suit in Pittsburgh? Jordan?
Yeah, I mean, I tend to think, look, if there's I was a big Brian Flores fan, and I think them kind of stashing Brian Flores away as a defensive guy is really going to.
They added Miles Jack, right?
Yeah, Miles Jack. I mean, look, I wanted Miles Jack to be a Bear so damn bad. I think that he's going to fit perfect. Devin Bush hasn't really lived up to the draft status since he was injured. Miles Jack steps in. TJ Watt's still looking good as always. You've got Minka Fitzpatrick that just got paid. Cam Sutton is a great corner for them, nickel corner. You've got Mike Hilton. Mike Hilton's with the Bengals now. I shouldn't say Steelers. But, I mean, that defense is solid, and you're looking to like, hey, can we just keep the games tight and ask Mitch or Kenny Pickett to deliver us a game-winning drive or a field goal?
Yep, the defense is going to have to hold the ship. That division is going to be awfully competitive, man. I know Deshaun Watson, we talked about, it's going to hurt Cleveland, but, man, Baltimore looks much improved. The run game should be there with J.K. Dobbins. Rashad Bateman looks like another player I liked. Lamar Jackson, he's playing for a new contract. That contract's probably going to set the record for the richest contract in the NFL, either this year or next year. And then, of course, the Bengals, are they going to, the Super Bowl runner-up curse? Who do you like in that division, either of you guys, to win that division? Let's go with the Jordan first.
I got to take Baltimore. I think Baltimore gets slept on because of how ravaged by injuries they were last year.
Yeah.
I think Lamar comes in looking to prove a point that, look, I deserve to be paid more than Watson, who hasn't proved it in over a year.
Yep.
And I think that they're healthy. I think they're going to just really hone in on that brand of football, which is everybody's like, oh, Lamar doesn't have receivers. It's going to be a 12, 13 personnel offense where it's Bateman's your single receiver, and you're running the
Mark Andrews and Bateman. Yeah.
Mark Andrews, Bateman, and then you've got Nick Boyle as a blocker.
Pounding the ball, although Gus Edwards put on the PUP list today. He'll miss the first 6 weeks of the season. You still have J.K. Dobbins and I forget the name of the other
you've got Josh Perry as one of their running backs.
One thing I love about the Ravens in the preseason is that John Harbaugh does not like to fucking lose.
No.
I've been wagering on the Ravens to win in the preseason. That's been two freaking easy bets for me. I love the fact that even though it's preseason, he's instilling the winning, getting the players used to winning. Mm-hmm. When you're used to winning, you sort of expect to win. I love that about John Harbaugh. If he were ever to leave Baltimore and I were the Bears, I would, seriously, if they needed a head coach, to look at picking up John Harbaugh. Let's move on to the Bills, who a lot of people figure might be a Super Bowl team. Jordan, Greg Rousseau locked up the Bills' starting edge rush job out on the opposite of Von Miller. That's going to be a nice looking little pass rush there. You've got Tremaine Edmonds. They have an awesome secondary as well. Bills defense looks to be in one of the top defense in the leagues this season. Their offense too. Devin Singletary came out last year. Josh Allen is improving every year. He's still one of the top quarterbacks. Talk a little bit. You got Stephon Diggs and Gabriel Davis. Do you expect a Buffalo to be in the AFC Championship?
I think it's a good bet. I mean, I'll tell you, I'm high on the Colts. I'm high on the Chargers, but I think, let's put it this way. The AFC East is going to be a mess, but not as much as the AFC West or the North, for example. So talking about, that's why I was high on the Colts, is I think that the competition there is really going to be between Tennessee and them. If you can get out of your division relatively unscathed and healthy, which I think Buffalo can, I don't think it's a bad bet to say that they go far.
Yeah, and I don't think there's anybody in that division really that can give them much of a fight. New England, I mean, they're still kind of rebuilding. Sonny, do you like the Bills in the AFC East?
Yeah, I think they're pretty much the most complete team on both offense and defense and special teams. I don't, especially in their division, I don't see anyone coming even close to them. I know Jets loaded up, but I just don't trust Zach Wilson. I think I made comments here before. To me, I know I'm going to piss off Mike North and a lot of Mitch fans, but to me, he's Mitchell Trubisky 2.0.
Well, if there is one place that the Bills might have a weakness, it's along the offensive line, where they're not sure whether they've got some holes. One of them seems to be right tackle. They can't decide between Dan Kessenberry, who I think was a center in college, and second-year pro Spencer Brown. What do you think, Jordan? Offensive line might be the weakest link on the Bills?
Yeah, but I'll tell you, I like Aaron Kromer, the new offensive line coach, and I think that
former Bears coach.
Yeah, I tend to look. I like Spencer Brown. Trevor Penning was a first-round pick because of Spencer Brown. Spencer Brown started off really hot last year, fell off towards the end, but I think whether it's Quessenberry or Spencer Brown, let me give you a good example. The Chargers, the clear weakest link on their offense is right tackle, and I'm not saying it's not an issue. But they obviously don't find it to be such a problem if you've got four other solid pieces and you have a quarterback like Herbert, and this is the real important part of Buffalo. When you have Josh Allen, a guy that really understands how to get the ball out, how to mitigate the pass rush, creating with his legs, you can afford to have a question mark at one of those five offensive line spots. And that's what I think. I don't see it as a real issue for the Bills.
All right. I love it. Let's talk a little bit about another area. You've got the Panthers, who just announced Baker Mayfield to be the starting quarterback. I don't expect much about him, but one guy who's coming back off major injury is Christian McCaffrey. He's going to be the focal point of that offense. But, man, I'll tell you, they don't have much else. Jordan, I can't see anybody contending with the Buccaneers for that division. New Orleans might give them a little bit of a fight, but I think it's Tampa Bay's division to lose, especially with Brady announcing that he's back.
Yeah, That that division is so funny. It's gotten much more interesting though when you consider. Look, Brady was absent from training camp for a period of time with nobody really knowing why. There was an assumption he was on The Masked Singer. He said he wasn't. Then there was some reports that he was just trying to have some time with his family, but he's been gone. He comes back to training camp. Ali Marpet's retired. Ryan Jensen's off.
Right, he's out for the season.
Yep, your guards. You have a guard battle with Aaron Stinney and Luke Gadecki. Aaron Stinney's out now. It's really Donovan Smith, and Wirfs has been out with an oblique issue. So when you talk about that team, yeah, they look awesome. But Brady's 45, and you need that offensive line to keep him upright if you're going to succeed. I have questions about what that team looks like if the offensive line is hurt.
Yeah.
Then you go to the Saints, and I mean, we'll see. We'll see. The whole question there is, what does it look like without Sean Payton?
Yeah.
I'm not telling you the Falcons are going anywhere, but I like what Arthur Smith's building down there. I think that they've got some offensive weapons that are going to be hard to guard. And then I know we're not super high on the Panthers, but I don't think the Panthers get enough love. I will agree. I don't know what Ben McAdoo can really do for that offense, but Baker's a guy that's shown that if things are decent around him, he can find a way to elevate or just play up to par, keep things on routine and on schedule, and I think he's got a chance to do that with Carolina.
They've got some skill position talent. When I took a look at the Buccaneers' offensive line, which like the Bills is their weak spot, I kind of thought Brady might not come back, especially after losing Ryan Jensen, and he kind of did waffle, but he loves the game. Let's not pretend. The guy loves the game. He's fucking 45 years old. He still wants to play. He still fucking wants to play. So, I mean, he's one thing that prolonged his career was he learned to have a quicker release. He always had a fairly quick release, but the older he got, he economized his delivery. And man, last year and the year before, it was really beautiful to watch, man. Just the way, he's always read the field well. He knows every defense you could throw at him. But what prolonged his career, he was able to get the ball out faster, get rid of the ball faster. A lot of that you just can't. Can't teach that. It's something to emulate for the young QBs.
And I get it, and I agree with you. But the thing that's just etched and burned into my brain, Tooch, is I know you remember Tom Brady with the blood out of his lip after he got bashed and bruised in the playoff games because Tristan Wirfs went down. The right tackle was a turnstile, Josh Wells. And you saw Brady getting beaten and bruised, bleeding out of his mouth. I mean, maybe I know he loves the game. I don't know if he loved it after that Sunday. I mean, what does it look like after a few weeks if he's bloodied and beaten and bruised because his offensive line can't block? It worries me.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And then we talked a little bit about Seattle. Geno Smith or Drew Lock, real quick.
Geno?
I think Geno looked better, too. I've seen Drew Lock before. Geno's a 10-year veteran. I know Danny said he sucked and stuff. Look, man, you have a little bit more hope for Seattle than I do, and I love their wideouts. Their running backs have got some talent as well. Defense seems to be okay, but man, I don't know how they're gonna.
I'm not telling you they're gonna win a playoff game. Just
right.
I know they look like shit against the Bears, but again, let's not be hyperbolic. Let's be patient, understand it's just a game. The only reason I'm positive about them is say what you want about Charles Cross and Abraham Lucas, and I've got a funny story for you. I put on the game, you maybe have seen the tweet where I had said, all you Braxton Jones fans, watch Abraham Lucas and Charles Cross, and I got eaten alive for it because it was a bad game, and I had to eat some of my own crow because I had watched the Pittsburgh game where I'm telling you, Charles Cross and Abraham Lucas were annihilating the Pittsburgh Edges. Go watch the film. It was ridiculous. But that goes to my point of why I'm high on them.
Right.
I mean, this goes to a separate thing. We don't have to go for another 30-minute conversation on it. But when you look at certain teams, when they have a really positive era, I mean, the one that most happened recently was the Saints. When they hit on Lattimore, they had Al-Quadin Muhammad in that class. They had a few others, Alex Anzalone. They had a killer draft class, and it really set them up in a way that launched them for a good 4 to 5 years of really positive growth. That's the same thing that happened to Seattle with the Legion of Boom when they drafted Wagner, Sherman, Chancellor, Thurmond, Bruce Irvin, Russell Wilson, Robert Turbin, Doug Baldwin, all these different guys. the reason I'm higher on the Seahawks than not, and we'll see, time will tell, I just have a weird feeling that Carroll and Schneider hit it out of the park when they needed it with Cross, Lucas, Walker, who's the kid from UTSA, Tariq Woolen. They've got Kobe Bryant. I mean, I love their draft class. I thought they hit it out of the park, and it's a class that if those guys pan out, I think that you're going to see Seattle really rebound quicker than most people think.
Right on. Let's see. That division seems to be the Rams division to lose. We'll see. 49ers were in the NFC Championship last year, but this year they're not going with Garoppolo. You're going to be seeing Trey Lance. I still think it's the Rams division to lose. Now they've added Allen Robinson, Sonny. Robinson, I know, man, opposite Cooper Kupp, you're gonna be really surprised at what you see out of him.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think Rams would have to totally get decimated with injuries for them to lose this game. To lose this division. As you said, I don't see the Seahawks or the Cardinals really coming there. And the 49ers, while they have very good coaching, the new kid, what's his name, Trey Lance, just looks very raw to me. Still looks very raw. Like, look in some of these preseason games, he'll either hit it and it'll look really good, or he's like way off. So I don't know. I'm not sure about him.
Yeah, that's all. Like a lot like the Bears, going to come down to their second-year quarterback. I want to talk about the Kansas City Chiefs, Jordan. Team that you're familiar with, of course, where I live, it's a lot of Chiefs fans here. I'm only 3 hours away from Kansas City. Iowa has a lot of Chiefs fans. They lost Tyreek Hill. That's the big news. He's in Miami. They picked up Juju Smith-Schuster, who I think will probably surprise people. He's going to get a lot of targets. Tyreek Hill gone. That's a lot of targets. MVS is there, a guy that people thought Bears might want to get. He has not looked good. He's been passed by Justin Watson. Travis Kelce's still there. I don't think the Chiefs' offense is going to miss much, Jordan. It's the defense that really has me worried.
Yeah, what's so funny is I get the whole thing I told you about Lamar coming out and looking like he's just on fire. I get this weird sense from Pat Mahomes that like they took that shit personally last year from losing to the Bengals, and they just look like they're out for blood. I mean, like, this is the funny thing is everybody's like, what are they going to do without Tyreek Hill? And he's over here dropping just perfect passes to Jody Fortson, a guy that nobody's even heard of. And we're talking about what happens when it's full speed, when you've got, you've got Ronald Jones as their backup running back now to Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Isaiah Pacheco from Rutgers looks like a killer rookie running back. You've got MVS to be your speed off the top guy, bigger body. I mean, this is the quote I've kind of been saying recently is
terrible hands, but yeah, lots of speed.
So this is the thing. Big arms need big bodies. That's the thing I've been saying about Justin Fields and why I want the Bears to get a ball winner. Big arms need big bodies to pin them to. That's what they got, Pat Mahomes. Hey, you got a big body in Juju. You got a big body in Travis Kelce. You got a big body in Fortson. You've got a big body in MVS. Just put it on them and watch us make miracles happen. And you've seen it. They're just killing it. So
they've got a couple small, speedy guys, Sky Moore and Mecole Hardman, too.
Yep.
A lot of weapons they could throw at you. Travis Kelce, love Kelce, man. What a great player. First ballot Hall of Fame player, in my opinion. This year, usually he's 33 years old. Usually this is the year when players not named Tony Gonzalez kind of go off the cliff a little bit. I still think Travis Kelce's got a few years left in him. And I think with Kansas City, it's going to be Kansas City and the Chargers fighting for that division. As much as I like what Denver and the Raiders have done this year, Josh McDaniels looks like he's got the team pointed in the right direction. And Denver, of course, went out and got Russell Wilson. This is a division that's really, really going to be tight. I see a lot of close games between in this division between the teams of the division. Sonny, any team you like to come out on top in this division?
Man, I don't know. It's a great division. You don't know. What'd you say?
Chargers.
Yeah, I don't know, man. That's what. I mean, you have a lot of very good teams. They're stacked, but I think Mahomes. I think at the end of the day, it's going to come down to the quarterbacks in those divisional games within themselves. For some reason, Mahomes to me will come out more often than not than the other guys. So I'm gonna go with the Chiefs there. I'm sorry.
It's not a bad bet. I can't, and I'll totally admit I have a little bit of homerism here. I have a mad crush on Justin Herbert like nobody else.
He's good, man.
And
He looks good.
I'm telling you, like, I have the Chargers. I have the Chargers beating the Bills in an AFC Championship if it got to that point. That's how strongly I feel about the Chargers and what they'll be. So to me, I love Patrick Mahomes. I love what they're doing, but this is the year that the Chargers have pushed it all in, not just with the Khalil Mack trade, but with the J.C. Jackson signing, Bryce Callahan, Kyle Van Noy, Austin Johnson, Sebastian Joseph Day. They've drafted J.T. Woods, a rangy safety, so that Derwin can play closer to the box. Drafted Zion Johnson to be their fourth solid guard and offensive lineman. I'm telling you, like this, it's nasty what the Chargers have going on. I went to their training camp; looked phenomenal. It was, I love what they've got doing. Got brewing.
Robbie, we got any tips for Robbie to beat the Chargers in Madden?
Yeah, keep Herbert off the damn field.
Oh man, love Justin Herbert too, man. That division is going to be so much fun to watch, man. I'll tell you right now. AFC West, man. I'm really excited to watch some of those games. Going to be tough for me to handicap games, man. I'll tell you. I want to move over to Washington, where they got a little bit of a running back quandary with Brian Robinson and Antonio Gibson. Antonio Gibson has got a world of talent. Man, you watch this guy; he just looks so natural, just cutting ability, the way he runs.
I love Antonio Gibson.
But I mean, Brian Robinson is kind of the every down pounder back that Ron Rivera loves. And
I can tell you, there's not a running back competition, Tooch. It's not a competition.
I know. I love Antonio Gibson too. He's beautiful to watch, but I think that I think Brian Robinson takes the starting job. They start finding using Antonio Gibson sort of split out wide, maybe third down back. He's going to play. Of course, they have J.D. McKissick, who's a great third down back too. But
you don't put Antonio Gibson on kickoff return in your second preseason game if he's your actual running back. Don't do it. And this is, I mean, Mo's got a great point here, and this is really, I hope chat's not getting too bored about this, but I just love talking about the NFL. For those that don't watch the Washington football team, the running back battle that Tooch is talking about is that Antonio Gibson was a receiver at Memphis that got drafted, I believe, in the second or third round, converted to a running back. He's 6'2", 220. I like his running style. I think he's a great player. But as Mo's talking about here, he has fumbleitis. And Ron Rivera, a defensive-minded coach,
hates
you. And this Flus is the same way. Like, you've heard him talk about it all the time. Like, just protect the ball. Protect the ball.
That's why Daz Newsome isn't here.
Yeah, and
he had bad hands, fumbles, and he couldn't catch the ball.
And that's the thing. So Gibson has showed that he has some fumbleitis issues. Brian Robinson comes in, Alabama trained, been there 4 years, waited his turn. Good size, solid runner, can push the pile. They've already shown you don't, like I said, if it was a real battle, you don't put Gibson out there on kick return in a specialized role. Brian Robinson's going to be the guy, and it's unfortunate because I really like Gibson.
Yeah, me too. All right.
Terry McLaurin. God, Ravi, you want to play a real player? Play Terry McLaurin. Play with the Washington football team. Use Terry McLaurin and watch what a real receiver feels like.
All right. I want to look at let me see, where am I on this? Sorry, my screen is up here. This Saturday, of course, Jordan, you know what this Saturday is. It's week 0 in college football. Mm-hmm. So I'm a big college football fan. I love wagering on on college football. Any games, and you like the Tar Heels. Tar Heels are at home against Florida A&M. You've got Nebraska, Northwestern, Big Ten showdown. The Illini are hosting Wyoming, and not a lot of great games. You have West Virginia at Pittsburgh. Any games you're looking forward to this coming Saturday?
No, other than, and this is just how I tend to consume my college football. I like watching for players and storylines, and so I'll give you a good example here. Is Quinn Ewers, the starter for Texas? I'm curious to see what that looks like. Mm-hmm. Caleb Williams at USC.
seeing what that Georgia defense looks like. They lost a lot of starters on that defense. So what do they come out looking like? How's Anthony Richardson at Florida? How's Will Levis at Kentucky? Bryce Young still coming out hot. CJ Stroud. These are the things I look at. Like, hey, I love me some Peter Skoronski, so I'm watching Northwestern film to see how does that left tackle look. Like these are the things I'm after more than, as you said. I can't get too excited about UNC versus Florida A&M. It's just not gonna happen.
I know. Week 0, never the best matchups. Week 1 is when the matchups start getting excited. A lot of Maction, if you like the Mac, where there's no defense and all offense. Games. Totals of games reach in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
But those games are fun to watch as well. I'll be watching at least week 0. I'll probably have some money somewhere on one of these games. I haven't handicapped any of these games yet. Still working through baseball, and got my pick in for the PGA Championship. As well, tonight my free pick won. It was no runs first inning in the Marlins and Athletics game. That was an easy winner. They were scoreless after 3. I didn't even look, but I'm on a little bit of a streak here with my free plays. So if you follow me on Twitter, you get a free play every day. And I'm trying to help people make some money out there. If you like mobile sports wagering like I do. That's about it. Before we get out of here, I wanted to ask either if you watched House of the Dragon on HBO over the weekend, the prequel to Game of Thrones.
If you guys spoiled it, I don't mind. I started it and didn't finish it. My wife fell asleep, so I stopped it, and we have yet to pick it back up.
Sonny, Game of Thrones fan?
Yep. Game of Thrones. Yeah, I couldn't miss out on season 1, episode 1.
Nice.
I liked it so far. I'm
Me too.
Keeping my mind open just to see where the story goes. But I already love the setup.
Yeah.
So I'm really looking forward to it.
Let me ask you, King's Landing, that's Croatia.
Yeah.
So to bring back some memories of kind of the Eastern Europe.
Yeah, dude. The last time I was there was like 2003. I mean, in like that area of the country. No, Croatia is beautiful, man. They got some beautiful beaches.
Yeah,
and,
along the Adriatic.
Oh my goodness,
beautiful resorts.
Yeah.
Pilot episodes are very hard to pull off because not only do you have to hook the viewer, but you also have to set the story. That's why a lot of people are like, let's, I need something new to watch. Let's watch this first episode, see if it hooks us. My wife and I are like, this sucks. It's hard to get past that first episode. This episode did it for me. I thought it was great. It's a huge budget, which always helps. Great cast, some great actors, and a decent storyline has been set up so far. I think Jordan, you're really going to like it.
I was going to ask, did you enjoy it?
I did.
Okay,
I'm a huge Game of Thrones fan.
Yeah, there's a setup. There's a nice setup. Yeah.
Nice
okay,
setup.
I hope, because I got to tell you, I hate to be a pessimist. I had a hard time enjoying it. I'm not trying to spoil it for anybody, but there was a scene early on where the King's Watch or whatever slays a bunch of criminals and
very brutally violent.
Yeah, and I was like, I don't know. You enter and like I said, I probably just didn't enter it with the right mindset, because they literally start telling you at the beginning, this is 200 or 300 years before the events of the first one.
200 years before.
Well, this is what I'm saying. I probably didn't watch it with the right mindset too, because literally as I saw that, I'm going, oh, so this is them letting us know that we have 300 years, so we could put 10 seasons of this shit out. So this is another money grab. And then sure enough, it's like they really want to hammer home the feminism stuff. Women can't be chosen to be king. And then, this girl shouldn't be flying on the back of dragons. Her job is to bear children. And I don't know. I hate to say, it didn't get me. I was really like, damn, I don't like these tropes early on, but I'll give it a go. I'll try it.
For sure. And, that was kind of the theme. A lot of the themes, those themes were prevalent in the original series as well. With Cersei, she wanted to sit on the throne. She was a twin, and it was more, males were more in line to take the throne. But what happened with the original Game of Thrones series is that the author's material ran out, and he basically, and this has long been a theory of mine. I don't know if Cliff Victoria's in the chat room. He'll probably agree with me that George R. R. Martin probably didn't figure out the ending, but when he was pressed and the show producers and writers had to ask him, George, how the fuck does this thing end? He's like, well, let's do this, let's do that, exactly. But I don't think it was well thought out, and it wasn't pulled off at all. The last season was not the last season. For me, it fizzled out. But they're supposed to have a Jon Snow Beyond the Wall. I think that'll be the next Game of Thrones universe series. But go ahead, Sonny.
No, I was gonna say, I didn't the season 8, the last season of Game of Thrones, I didn't mind the ending. It's just I never bought in how Daenerys went mad. It's just like it felt like so forced that I never bought it, man. And it makes me think, had they just done things differently. And okay, I'm gonna get into a little bit of an episode. Hopes it's not a spoiler, but you know what?
It's been enough years. You go for it, dude.
I'm gonna say, if you didn't see it by now, screw you, bro. That's on you. I was thinking like, where one episode where I could have bought in where she went mad would have been like, okay, like I think it was when she was chilling on the city, on one of the keeps there, and like she's debating what to do. I would have much preferred had one of her, the other dragon that got killed in the previous episode, had been there with her. And let's say she's debating kind of like, okay, you guys surrender, everything's cool, blah, 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 blah. And then Cersei or whatever, one of the soldiers shoots and kills the other dragon. Now, I could see her totally going fucking mad shit right there and then, because like, I gave you a chance to surrender and you're going to kill like one of my babies or whatever, But I would have totally bought that, like how she went mad in that moment and just butchered an entire city. So how they did it didn't make any fucking sense to me.
I'll tell you, the ending that viewers wanted were Daenerys and Jon Snow to, hook up, because I think she really liked him or loved him, and he was kind of, I don't know what, I think he would have, but he felt duty over love, honor and duty over love.
And then he kills her at the end.
But okay, But listen, he had to look. He had to follow the plot. I mean, the script. But I think that the ending that viewers wanted to see was them to hook up and rule the kingdom together. But they were just determined not to give us that ending, which pissed the hell out of me, because I don't care whether it's a traditional ending or not. That was the right ending. Was for them to rule together.
Well, Tucci, this is the problem too. Is like I'll even pick a different thing that like really just ended it for me. You've got the White Walkers that are like omnipotent, able to revive dragons. They're just the ultimate death bringer.
Yeah.
And I mean, that dude is so powerful. The Dark Knight or whatever his name was. Right. The king of them. Yeah. Dark King, whatever. You've got Arya just somehow his peripheral vision just completely failed him. And Arya just slips it that knife and like completely ends the biggest threat to this world. And I'm supposed to somehow care about what happens after it. And that is where it fell apart for me. Is what keeps the show going is this ultimate big bad.
There was a lot of plot lines that never finished, like the prince that was promised. Like, man, they went so much through that stuff, and in the end, it's like, what the fuck was that all about? Like the lady came and lit up the fire, like, I don't know, the entire thing didn't make, a lot of it didn't make any fucking sense. So it's like they started plot lines, and then to Jordan's point, like some of them they were so gone. Like that was it. Like 8 seasons for the White Walkers for this. Like what the fuck? Like one episode are done. Get the fuck out of here.
He didn't have the ending, all the threads lined up or whatever, all the ducks in a row, whatever you want to say. This one, House of the Dragon, all the materials there, the whole story's written. Hopefully it's not a problem. As long as in the setup you have, the conflict, the table's been set for the conflict between the younger brother and the older brother or older brother's daughter to have sort of a battle for the throne. That I think that'll be a little bit more palatable. They can kind of patch up where the original series kind of went off the rails. But I wouldn't give up on it if I were you, Jordan. I'd stick with it. I think at least it should be some rewarding viewing. You'll have plenty of boobs and bush and butts.
Can I ask you gentlemen this? Have either of you played The Last of Us? As Ravi's talking about HBO coming out with that show.
I have always wanted to play it. I've watched my son play it. Yeah, my son's a big PC gamer, and it looks so cool. And I love those kind of games. too. But I'm almost 55 years old, so I'm like, I don't have time for video game stuff, But I love video games, man. I want to play it.
Then Tooch, I mean, because it looks like, I mean, they put out a small trailer and it was almost the exact language, word for word, from what was in the game. If you, you won't find a bigger Last of Us fan than me. I thought it was just a beautifully told story.
Yeah.
And as somebody who can't utilize the medium of the games very well, I would highly encourage you to watch the Last of Us.
I will be. I will be, man. It's father and daughter.
Yep.
Correct. Right.
Yes. I mean, kind of. That's the scheme. The general gist.
The start, at least, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
When I was playing video games, I was playing Left 4 Dead, which I thought was one of the best video games. Man, it's like 20-minute games, man.
Yep.
High adrenaline. You could play with all your friends and stuff, and you have to cooperate through the game. That was one game I really got into. Of course, I've been playing Skyrim for probably, I don't know, when did Skyrim come out? 2010?
Yeah, it's like 10 years ago.
12 years ago. Yeah, but you can still play that one. That's a great game as well, too. But it's hard for me with work and wife and 3 kids to do all that. Love the Fallout games too, Zach. But yeah, I find myself with less and less time. I mean, I was thinking if my wife went to Philippines without me, I'd have plenty of time to play some Skyrim and maybe Last of Us and stuff like that. But I'll be going to Philippines over Thanksgiving in the first couple weeks of December.
Awesome.
Little stop in Taiwan. My second trip to Asia. Last year went through Tokyo. I'll have one day long layover in Taiwan. Hope to get up to top of Taipei 101. Check out some of Taiwan food. But
cool.
Yeah, nice. My second trip to the Philippines. So Jordan will have to fill in for me, and Sonny and everybody else.
Figure it out.
Yeah. Of course, I'll be missing some of that great college basketball action too. But I'll be back in time for all to get my wagering in. So, all right. Well, for Dan Aguirre and Aldo Gandia, I want to thank Sonny and Jordan and all of the Barflies. Chat room was awesome tonight, wouldn't you guys say?
Yes, they were. Freaking excellent, as always.
Freaking fantastic, man. And Aldo should be back next weekend. And let me see if I could find. Aldo never leaves me the opening, so I always have to use my Bears State of Affairs open. It's like I don't know where he keeps it. There's a barroom closing.
Yeah,
stuff
barroom closing logo.
Barroom closing logo. That's there's a Dan and Aldo.
Okay.
I might as well do the barroom close. It wasn't the Dan and Aldo show. It was more like Tooch and Sonny and Dan and Jordan, and Tooch and Jordan going around the NFL. But yeah, as long as Jordan's here, I'm going to take the opportunity to go around the NFL. As long as I'm wagering on a game, I don't mind watching. I don't care who the fuck the teams are. Like I said, I wagered on both Ravens preseason games. That was easy money. Love watching the Ravens in the preseason. Love my Bears though, and I'll be watching this Saturday. It's going to be a tough game. I had big money on the Bears over the Seahawks because the Seahawks have Jack Crap at backup quarterback, and the Bears had 2 veterans, so that was easy money as well. Of course, it was 24-0 at halftime. Felt pretty good about my bet at that point. So I want to say goodnight to the Barflies, and let's roll that.
Yeah.
Let's roll that.
Barflies, have a great evening.
Yeah, Barflies.
Yeah,
Thanks.
now.
Thanks again. All right, guys. Good night.
Have a good one. Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you for listening to Dan and Aldo Bare Their Souls. Make sure you subscribe to the Barroom Network and you give us a rating on iTunes. Until next week, my name is Namse. Bear down.